And a result. We got everybody on? We're good. All right. Recommendation that council resolve itself in the committee of the whole at 6 or at 5 o'clock. Councillor Malmus, Councillor Aries, all in favor. Good to go. Just a quick comment. It's nice to see people in this gallery once again, and Bruce Jones over there in the corner. He's in that machine that he runs around town in, and anyway, I've had a few interesting conversations with him, and he's been attending most of our council meetings, so that's pretty cool. Thanks, Bruce. All right, get right into it. Recommendation. Now that we're going to go into the short-term rental status update. This has been very controversial, and we're trying to get there. So Scott, give us your take.
Sure. Thank you, Chair. So we're looking at introducing a new zoning bylaw, and in that zoning bylaw, we're going to attempt to address short-term rentals. Don't think I need to explain what a short-term rental is. It's pretty much aware. But yeah, and there are a lot of them in the community. We've tried to come up with an accurate number, and it's probably in the neighborhood of 70, if not more. A couple different ways we can track them and record them, and we've been trying to do that. Staff has reached out to some of the platforms and had conversations with them, and a lot of research on what everybody else is doing. And so we're attempting to do it through zoning, regularly put through zoning. So we have a definition of a short-term rental, and then all the different zones that they'd be permitted in. So right now in the commercial zones, they'd be permitted as tourist accommodation. And we're looking at allowing them in some of the other zones on larger properties and limiting them in the residential zones. So the Tree Streets is an example of an area where right now with the zoning bylaw, they wouldn't be permitted. People would have the opportunity to apply to rezone their properties to allow them. So it'd be a one-off zones. That way you notify the neighbors, and council can have a look at them and see how they fit with the neighborhood. So in bylaw 1000, they're looking, it's looking at, what zones, where do you want to see them? Requiring a business license. You'd have to come into the city hall, submit a business license. That way we can go and inspect them, make sure they have the required on-street parking. We require a local responsible person. So that's somebody that's can attend the property with, and we originally had it 2 hours, but we knocked it down to 1 hour. So somebody within a 1 hour drive that can come and attend them. So our bylaw enforcement officer isn't going and dealing with parking issues. We put that on the person who's operating them. Another one is limiting it to 2 adults per bedroom. We wouldn't count the kids, but just make sure that you're not getting 16 people in a 3-bedroom house, or 16 adults in a 3-bedroom house. Also looking at servicing, what's going to be required for making sure that they're receiving the proper services. And then we're looking at, I guess, reaching out to the public. We did have a survey last summer. We got 173 people responded to the survey. Morgan last year, the summer student, put together this summary. We did a workshop where we invited people to meetings in person, on Zoom, because we weren't allowed to meet in person last year. Zoom meeting, just to talk about the different issues, and then they're summarized in a document that's attached to the agenda. We're looking at a pamphlet and letters, sending those out. We'll probably try and send them out to everybody in Sycamore, everybody who has an address in Sycamore, and then also mail them out to anybody who owns a property and receives their mail out elsewhere. Information was put on the website. That was picked up by the Eagle Valley News. We got lots of good free advertising that way. Sarah has been really, her contact information is on the Eagle Valley News article. So she's probably got, minimum a dozen, if not 25 people calling in and emailing her for information. We did actually receive one business license as a result of that. People are very interested in getting it from both sides. Some people who are concerned about it in their neighborhood, and some people who who are interested in they're doing it now and they're worried they're not going to be able to do it in the future, or people who want to do it in the future and want to make sure to do that. So we've been getting that information out. And so the report we provided for council, there's a couple of questions that we had in it. We want to make sure we're on the right track with council and want to make sure that we're asking everybody the right questions. So I guess the questions are, where would you like to see them? What zones and neighborhoods? Right now, in the existing zoning bylaw, you can have them in any commercial zones where tourist accommodation is permitted. In the new zoning bylaw, we're going to expand it to some of the more rural zones. It would still be in the commercial zones, and then there's an opportunity to put them in some of the multifamily residential zones as well. Does council want to see them pre-zoned? So if somebody comes forward, say today, and they say, I'm in the tree space, so I'm not going to be able to have it, can I be included in this new zoning bylaw? Or does council want to see them in application by application group or something, where then you can have a look at them, where they are in the neighborhoods, and determine if they're appropriate or not. And then it would also give people in the neighborhoods the opportunity to could also be done through temporary use permits. So that would be if council wanted to issue them a permit for 1, 2, 3 years, conditions on those permits, see how it goes, and then decide if they want to renew those permits, or if it's not working on a certain case, then not renew the permits. Another one is accessory unit. So right now you can have your single family dwelling, and then say you have a carriage house, so you have a dwelling unit in your garage. Right now, with bed and breakfast, you have to have the bed and breakfast. So you're living in it. You have to have a bed and breakfast within that space you're living in. We want to allow them to be in, garden suites or carriage houses, basement suites. A, bed and breakfast, but B, short-term rentals. Would you want to see someone renting out a property with 2 units, their house, the main house being rented out as the short-term rental, and then also a garden suite or something being rented out as a short-term rental. And then the services that we'd be providing, so that leads to the cost. So the business license, right now, our business license cost is relatively low. It does include the public's attending. It includes the fire department coming and making sure that you have all the fire extinguishers, exits, those types of things. If you're doing something where you require a building permit, building inspector goes and makes sure there's the proper fire separations for BC building code. Do we want to come up with a questionnaire, a more complex questionnaire? Do we want to require people to go and hold their neighbors? So I guess, the question is, what services do you want us to provide? And then we'll have to come up with a fee to capture that service back. And there's a agenda also is just a range, usually between 2 to 5 it seems that most communities are doing. And you have to assume all of them are offering different levels of service. They're collecting different bits of information. And then that leads to the decision-making process. So then, what kind of inspections and then notifications would be required for those. So staff's been working on this for quite a while. We've done it public a couple times. I think that Eagle Valley News, our website, spurred that Eagle Valley News article, and we really started engaging with people kind of last week and this week, and we'd like council's opinion, what direction you want to see this go.
Thank you, Scott. Is there anything else that you would require from us? All right, questions or comments from council? Councilor McCabe.
2 comments. One on the temporary use permit, there's a suggestion of it. I see that being onerous on staff and, coming to council on a one-off basis to 2,600 principal residents in town. I think it should be sort of the way it's laid out in the short-term rental agreement, but they have to come back, once this is implemented, whatever it looks like. One thing that'll probably be consistent is a business license on a yearly basis. So if there's a non-compliance for a user in a 1-year term of their business license, that's our catch-all right there. Is not to reissue a business license if there's been some non-compliance. So I don't see where the use of a temporary use permit would come in. I think it would just be added to administration burden sort of thing. And my other question is, I agree with most of the stuff in the pamphlet. But as we move into this, and it looks like staff's been working on it and has done a great job, and I agree with the recommendations, but for some folks who are, say, in a tree subdivision who currently do Airbnbs and might be forced to look at rezoning and all the fees identified in the pamphlet here, you know, it could make or break their revenue stream as far as being able to meet their mortgage and reduce their potential revenue if they're not Airbnb a property and go to long-term rental. So what I don't see in this whole presentation is as we roll into this, whatever form it will be, we do need to balance it between hotels and motels and Airbnb, so it's an even playing field, and still respect bringing tourists in and making sure there's enough accommodation. But what I don't see is a transition for those folks who might not be able to afford all the fees and licensing and regulations of off-street parking to meet the conditions of an Airbnb and say the tree subdivision. So how do we allow them to transition out of that and forecast their finances so it mitigates their impact? I don't see a transition period, is what I'm saying in brief. Short term.
Councillor Malmus.
Through the chair, Airbnb is a required. Some tourists want to stay in Airbnbs. They don't want to stay in hotels. The problem that we have is we have a bylaw officer that has to go out and attend to these. And not all of them, but there are some parking on the street, parking in the ditches, music all night, and nobody goes there and attends it. The reason they're doing Airbnb over long-term rental is because it's more profitable.
Yeah, of course.
So I don't see why they need a transition. And part of the idea is that if you're going to have an Airbnb, then we put these rules in place basically so that you would have to come in, make an application, and your neighbors would get notified. And if your neighbors say, hey, you've been a problem, you might not have an Airbnb anymore, which we have staff that has better things to do. That's part of the reason of some of this is that our staff has other tasks at hand besides policing somebody who's making a higher than annual rental fee off of a piece of property, because that's the only reason they do it. And yes, it's required, but so far in this community, the parking, noise, and the other thing, like I got 3 or 4 friends that got places, and next door to was an Airbnb, and I wouldn't go anywhere near them ever, not in the summertime, ever. And that's a sad state of affairs. So other communities have got basically we've copied it from 4 different communities and put it together. So this is where it's going on in other places. And we're not asking for anything different than anybody else is doing. We're just asking for a playing field where the guy who's making the money actually is going to be responsible for looking after it rather than bylaw officer having to go over there and police it, because that's just wrong. So, and I'd like to state that yesterday I was accosted by 3 different people that have short-term rentals with, I'm not sure, but people do the rental for them. And they've got the total wrong information. And I just basically said to them, you need to come in or go online and have a look at it, read it for yourself, because the information that you're relating to me is 100% wrong. Like it's pretty simple. It's written out. It's exactly what's been asked for. There's an opportunity to have input yet because it hasn't been adopted and it hasn't had first, second, or third reading. So there's an opportunity here to be heard and adjustments made, but let's make sure that the staff and the district of Sycamore is not responsible for going out and policing. Because we don't have to ever go to the Best Western. They look after it themselves. So if you want Airbnb, look after it yourself. Don't expect the district taxpayer to come over there and pull cars off because they're parked in front of fire hydrants and tell them they gotta be quiet, and they tell the police to have a nice day. So this is a case of, it's been a Wild West for all, and now there's gonna be some rules put in place, and those rules are the same rules that are in 6 or 7 other communities. So thanks.
Right. More comments, questions?
I think Gord has had. Gord.
Gord, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, through the chair. Yeah, I appreciate staff bringing this to us. It's a long time coming. I know years ago, we went around to a lot of the hotels and we were looking at trying to register for our municipal regional district tax, which if we want to compete with the rest of British Columbia or the world, they're all collecting municipal regional district tax. And so if we want to compete with them, we have to be able to have that kind of money at hand to do our marketing for our community. So we went out to all the hotels, and all the hotels came back to us and said that it's just impossible for them to compete. There's not a level playing field. They're competing against short-term rentals. So yeah, so we like every community have to decided to implement this bylaw. So it was tough. We went to the community, and with COVID, we didn't get a great response. So it's good that we're bringing this back to the public again, and staff have put some good time into it. But it's a tough call. We need the short-term rentals for our municipal regional district tax, but we also need to manage it properly for our residents in our community, because there is lots of problems out there with it. So yeah, I'm looking forward to refining this and hearing a little bit more comments from the public, and hopefully we can get a happy medium, and because we rely on the short-term the short-term rentals for the tax revenue as well, and but we also have to protect our businesses and our residents. So that's what I appreciate being able to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Gord. Any other comments or questions? Colleen?
I just want to, and yeah, I understand that we do have a lot of rent. We have to be really careful though, as far as homes that are short-term rental compared to homes that are long-term rental. Long-term rental homes bring more economic value to the community. Those are folks that are living in our community and working in our community. Having way too many short-term rentals gives us a housing shortage. So we can't get folks into Sycamore because there's nowhere for them to live. So we need to figure out how to monitor that and make that work for Sycamore, and find out perhaps the percentage based on population of how many short-term rentals you can have before you start creeping into cutting out the long-term folks that can come to the community, live in the community, and have jobs here, because there's the other side of that. So we need folks moving here to keep our restaurants open, keep our houseboat companies open. We need, we do need employees here. So that's something that we do have to consider as well. The other thing, maybe I missed it somewhere, is Scott, if there is a residence in one of the not zoned areas that would like an Airbnb in a home, do they have to send out a notice to all the neighbors to get that approved? Or do they just come here, ask the district, and we make that decision? Or is it a neighborhood decision?
Through the chair. So if they wanted to rezone the property, we would notify everybody within 50 meters.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other comments or questions? Councillor McCabe?
Yeah, so if the resident is not caught in a current catchment area and wants to be an Airbnb, just to clarify, they have to rezone. And so it's a whole rezoning application and all the permits and processes involved. And mainly now to 50 neighbors or within 50 meters is part of the process. So it's an application. So there's no guarantee that if a resident to become an Airbnb and get rezoned as one, it's an application process. There's no guarantee that the end result will be that they're granted one. Is that correct?
So taking a look at different models, Revelstoke is a prime example where they put a moratorium on short-term rentals and put a cap on it that forces anybody else that wants to rent after the moratorium's in place, then they have to start to continue, or they got to consider long-term rentals. I think that staff has done a pretty good job, but I've taken a look at all these comments. I've read through them all, and there's one side to this and there's the other side to this. There's people that have actually come and had a conversation that actually have facilities that they're renting out. Very responsible individuals as well. So we need to police this so that we don't have issues when it comes to rogue situations. I think that you've got it pretty much covered. I don't know, Scott, can you give me a little more feedback as to how much more do you want from the public as to consultation? Are you looking for more result than that? I see almost a 50-50 split between people that are pro and con. At the same time, I look at the short-term rentals as being something that as being an asset to the community as well. I've had people come up and say, I've had a great experience, and they've been out snowmobiling and whatnot. And so there's that part of it. Yeah, this is really a challenge for us. I don't know what the answer is, but we have to come up with some sort of regulation so that we can control this. Now, this is also something that has been brought on by the tech sector, because it's no different than Uber. How much control do we have over it when it comes to our communities, based on what other communities have put into place when it comes to their bylaw? So there's pros and cons to this. Scott, where do you want us to go with this? I see you're looking for recommendations from us. I can see what you're trying to get from us. But at the same time, I don't think that council can make this decision, offhand, like at this particular council meeting. We need time to digest this, and maybe we need time for you to give us a little bit more guidance as to where we're going to go, but we've got to get this straight. What I'm really concerned right now is the legitimate short-term rental facilities that are within the community right now. And then we take a look at maybe the zoning issues and whatnot, and they're being responsible and maybe getting that right taken away from them. I would have a problem with that. I'm just kind of on the sidelines with this. I don't know how to take this at this. I know how important this is though at this stage. Jen?
Oh, no. I was
No?
just-
Okay.
Well, I think we're not at the beginning of the process, but we're not at the end, so we're maybe somewhere in the middle right now. We've laid it out what's in the bylaw right now, and if council wants to see something different, let us know. I'd encourage anyone who has a short-term rental, and anybody who wants to have a short-term rental, get in touch with staff. Let us know what you're doing, where you want to do it. Anyone who has a real concern, anybody who has concern with an acre doing it, let us know as well. We can monitor that situation. And if in general, if you have an opinion, anybody in the public, if you have in general, let us know. Like, we're kind of in the middle of this. I think we got a really good response on the survey, but we didn't get a lot of people who are operating now. Like that's kind of the group we missed. We got a lot of people from the public. So if you're operating now, or if you want to operate, let us know. And we're not going to go and switch you out and start a bylaw enforcement action. in the future. I think once we get something in place, that may be how we deal with some of them. And, you know, council can have a number of opportunities at this. We still have the bylaw. We're gonna bring it back to council. You'll have an opportunity to participate then. We have a public hearing, the public will have an opportunity to participate. We have the business license bylaw that has to be amended, and we have the fees and charges bylaw that has to be amended. So lots of opportunities to participate, and yeah, take them all now, and hopefully, you know, in a month or two, we'll come back with more information for council.
Okay. Counselor Malmus and Counselor, we're gonna move on.
Yeah, through the chair. So the Airbnb and the MRTG taxes is a welcome thing in our community. What's not welcome is the ones that don't police themselves. So if you're looking after an Airbnb and you're making sure that the market is good and that the people that are there, that they're not beating the drum till 3 o'clock in the morning, so the neighbors are all up, then fill your room. But you're still gonna need the neighbors' consent. If you're a bad operator, the neighbors are gonna complain and you just won't get a license. It's that simple. Like, police yourselves and do a better job of it. There's a lot of these places that people don't live here. They live in Alberta. They rent it out over the internet. They come here, they stay here. From the moment they get here till the moment they leave, it's party central. And that's fine if that's what they want to do for a vacation, but I think we kind of have a houseboat company that'll handle that end of it. So just saying.
All right, point well taken. Counselor McCabe.
On the mail out for the short-term rentals, one thing I didn't see in there was talk about transitioning either to an Airbnb or leaving an Airbnb because of all the rezoning requirements or whatever. So one thing it doesn't mention in here about cost implications is the ramifications on your property tax. It doesn't suggest that if, and I hate to pick the tree subdivision, but it's just an easy large section of residential. If somebody wants to apply for Airbnb and then go through the rezoning process, so they're getting rezoned from residential to, correct me if I'm wrong, commercial. And so your property taxes are going to increase substantially too. And that's something that this flyer doesn't really sort of let people know for the ways, the pros and cons of this is if you become registered Airbnb and you move from residential to commercial, that'll directly impact your property taxes as well. Substantially, you're going to be paying more on property taxes.
Kelly.
Just to clarify to the chair, I have contacted BC Assessment and they do not necessarily change a class of assessment based on zone, and they don't, because short-term rentals change so frequently, it's really hard to manage and administer from an assessment point of view. So they won't necessarily change the class, and that may not happen.
Oh, okay.
You don't really regulate that piece. So our piece is a business license fee that will cover our additional costs to buy, law enforce, and inspect.
That's why it's in there.
And there are cases where BC Assessment will, in larger stratas, assess as business, and they do annual mailouts to those owners, which then each year it changes the class either to class 1 or class 6. But for a home, I don't think that they would change the class.
Maybe mention that in the flyer then.
All right, so we've got to move on, but I think council has to digest some of the requests from staff, and I'm just going to read this over again direction when it comes to short-term rentals, and is what zones or neighborhoods should short-term rentals be permitted? Should there be an opportunity to pre-zone short-term rentals in non-commercial areas, and should temporary use permits be promoted as a tool of use? We discussed that today. Should accessory units be used for short-term rentals as a sort of a bed and breakfast, and then considering what other communities are doing? And that's what I suggested when we took a look at the Revelstoke model. what district services should business licensing fees cover? So anyway, we need time to digest this a little bit and we'll get back. So Jeff, your comments and then we'll move on.
Through the chair. Yeah, I'd like to hear from the people that are managing it and the actual, some people that are just individual short-term rentals to submit what they think to the staff, the district office here, so that we kind of get around an idea. Like, it's not gonna play into one guy's head or another guy's head. We try and come up with something else, and that's where it gets tough. So, but if we don't hear from the actual Airbnb people, except when they try to come straight at you because they actually didn't read what's out there, nothing's been adopted yet. There's still an opportunity to have a change. But the clear direction that we wanted to go with this was to make sure that the people with Airbnbs are policing the Airbnbs, the district police the Airbnbs.
Are we open to a question from a member of the public, myself here at this time?
All right, I'll allow that. Go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Logan Evans. First, Gord Bushel, it's nice to see you. I don't think I've seen you since I was about 12 to 14 years old working at Three Boys for you. So it's good to see your face there. Thank you for letting me speak here. My first question, and I'm sure this can be addressed after, is how I can engage, be a part of the discussion, have an opportunity to be a part of the conversation. But what my question ultimately is, and it kind of piggybacks off of what's been mentioned, is a transition plan. So when we look at having to rezone an entire condo building, there may be a lot of red tape, a lot of issues being able to actually obtain that business license, which will force a lot of people to have to actually sell their properties. So my question is, what analysis has been done on the actual impacts to the district's revenue? So restricting short-term rentals will definitely cause, again, some of the owners, there's 64 properties in your report. I've read it in detail, that list for rents, for short-term rents. And given there's only 26 listings now that are not vacant land, the additional supply will definitely drive down property value, which means a decrease in the property taxes that account for 67% of the town's revenue. So my question again is, what analysis has been done on the impact to the district's revenue if it becomes near impossible to obtain that zoning permit if you're a member of a condo strata and you are forced to list your property for sale?
All right, thanks. Point well taken. Now you understand how complicated this is for both staff and council and all the decisions that we that are related to short-term rentals and the impact it has on long-term rentals as well. Mary, one last comment you wanted to comment. I can see you got your hand up there and I'll allow you that now.
How closely are you working with the real estate people that are selling the places? And also, I know a lot of younger ones, like we have to face it, this is a tourist town in the summer and the winter. And yes, you know, middle-aged younger folks bought into condos hoping to retire here, so they would be a permanent resident. But in the meantime, they're renting them out, and all of a sudden they can't do that anymore. They're losing it. And I don't know about the real estate. Like, if I come into town here and bought a place, are they going to inform me that this is taking place so that you can make a better judgment on your investment?
Yeah, that's a point well taken as well. Okay, Councillor McCabe, go ahead.
Maybe to answer the fellow on Zoom and Mary, and Scott, correct me if I'm wrong, but strata councils will regulate themselves on Airbnbs, not local government.
No, I understand that.
Yeah.
But they were not informed by that. They were not informed by real estate when they bought it.
I'm gonna get a comment from somebody that's got boots on the ground. Tia, go ahead.
I think one of the things that you mentioned, Scott, was that zonings, you know, do apply to several condos already. And so the short-term rentals will be permitted in those zones, correct?
So through the chair, so in the ones that are zoned commercial right now,
Yes.
they could continue.
So I don't know if the fellow in the Zoom may be implying that there are a couple condo buildings that are actually in residential. The Legacy being one and White Pines. So I think those are the concerns, you know, is that those condo buildings now will have to go through a rezoning to get them put into commercial and go through the strata. The strata has to apply for a permit to get that done. So is it something that will be looked at, you know, like a zoning map for those larger properties that you talked about?
We've probably heard it from more people from White Pines than anywhere else.
And probably Legacy as well. Because right next door to them is Grandview, which is in the C4, so.
Brenda, do you have a comment? I know you're gonna have your hand up. I could just see that.
Listening, thank you. And I like what Scott said. I've been emailing back with Sarah this week. I did a fair amount of research, and the owners and operators and or their hosts, I think they are the missing piece here. They have not really answered to the survey of the ones that I manage, as well as other owners that I know that do it on their own. None of them have received any kind of direct mail that they can recall. So whether it was in their address in Alberta or Saskatchewan or wherever they're from, or other places in BC. So I think that is that's one of the biggest pieces that we're missing is interaction with them. And I did, over the last 3 or 4 days, go through all of Airbnb's listings here in Sycamore. And what I did notice is one of the concerns I would see is a lot of them are lockbox operated. So that means they're remote access. So I feel like that's a concern, and maybe it's the cleaner or the neighbor that's looking after it for them. But the majority of them, I mean, they're from Prince George, Lower Mainland, Fort St. John. There's a lot of people that have purchased property here and they want to use it. And this comes from personal experience in talking with them. They've bought because they like this area to vacation in. They can't be here. They're all working. So they're only limited to weeks, a few weeks here and there and weekends. And so because we are a resort town and we've invited tourists here by the tenfold for sledding and winter sports and summer sports, I think it's important to remember that these people are just trying to offset some of their expenses. And it's not so much they're trying to kill the long-term rental. If they don't do short-term rental, they won't rent them out. Like I don't believe you're going to gain long-term rentals because people quit renting short-term. They've bought it because they want a piece of our paradise and they want to come and enjoy it as they can. Some of the properties only rent out 30 to 40 nights a year because they want to be here more of the time. So I think that there are a few, because you can go in and read about the owners. Superhosts are really easy to find out things about them. And there are some owners in town that own several properties and they're solely designing their model after that's their business. So I think they need to be addressed on a different premise. So it's getting to know the complexity of what each owner is. Some of them are just, and I'm going to say they're just simply offsetting some costs. And I don't believe you're going to drive them to sell their property if they can't do short-term rentals. They'll just point blank not rent them out, or they'll go through another avenue. What I did research through Canada Mortgage and Housing was that they've got a pilot project in Toronto this year, and they're working, and it's called Airbnb. So it's a bit of a different model, and I'm interested in finding out more and talking to Sarah about it, because what they are doing is the hosting fees that they collect, which is like a 14%, and it's collected from the guest. They are doing a pilot project in Toronto and they are donating 50% of that, so 7% of that. 7% goes to a community initiative for affordable housing. So they've really kind of gone deep because there's so many concerns with how it's impacting housing in general. And so that they've got that. So I'm interested in following up with that. And as well, the provincial government has recently, in a study that the report that I just read was that they are allowing you to designate some of your MRDT tax collected, not just towards tourism, but now towards housing. So those are important things that we need to know as the governing group, that it just needs to be thought early and maybe not over-regulated, because this is also going to align with our new housing strategy that we're going to be working on in the housing committee. And I feel like the two are they're going to have to talk back and forth, and they will definitely have some kind of a relationship between, or correlation between short-term rentals and housing needs in general.
Thanks, Brenda, for that. Yeah, so there again, this is challenging. So we're trying to get this right. So, you know, that there's some very good text in what you just had to say. So anyway, staff is listening to this. And Gord, did you want to comment on this? We got one of our counselors that's on Zoom. So go ahead, Gord, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, through the chair. Thank you very much, Terry. Yeah, Logan, good seeing you. It's been a while. Say hi to your folks and your family. Yeah, I think this is a pretty big project that we've taken on, and it just has to be done. I don't think we're gonna solve this tonight. And as everybody knows, staff did this report up, and we received it on Friday. So we have homework to do. And yeah, we want to hear everybody's comments. And Brenda and Tia and Mary, Logan, you guys have some good comments there, and there's probably a lot more coming our way. So yeah, just wanted to thank everybody, and yeah, we got lots of homework to do. Don't know if it's going to go through this year. It would be nice to, but if not, we're hopefully going to get it right. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Counselor Malmus, then we're going to move on.
So another thing to do with Airbnb was when we 4 years ago started meeting with developers that were from the Lower Mainland and Kelowna and that. We don't have a Airbnb short-term rental bylaw. So if we had a short-term rental bylaw, Airbnb bylaw, it's to their advantage, because if they build a development, condos or whatever, and the market goes a little flat and they can't sell them, they would Airbnb them. And they specifically asked about that. They said, without that actual zoning bylaw in your ruling, it means you can't have it. So it's not a tool that they can have in their toolbox. So a lot of the bigger developers from bigger centers that wanted to come here and build something weren't, because they didn't have an ability, if the market softened or whatever, to be able to have properties that they could rent out. Because if you don't have a zoning bylaw that says you can do that, then you could just say there's no more Airbnbs and that's the end of it. You're all out of business, including them. So that was a start of some of the stuff that started to move forward, because they asked about it. So this whole thing is a big catch-22, and it's a hell of a balancing act. And the staff has done a great job of trying to put this together. And we've gone to numerous communities to try and get as much input. And because the people in the Airbnb business are the ones by the reports that actually haven't put any input in yet, and now we're at the 12th hour and you want to have some input, it would have been nice to get some input last summer when we had the student here that was working on it. Just say.
All right, thanks, Jeff, and thanks, Gord, for the closing words, and thanks for all of you for leading to this. And we still got a lot of challenges. Let's see where this goes, and we'll see if we can get it figured out. But there are lots of models out there, and Tia and Brenda, thanks for your input. It's very very substantial. Okay, so Scott, you and your staff still got some work to do. All right, we're gonna move on. Thanks.
If I may just make one closing, just thank you on being able to be heard, and thank you for having an open forum about this, and just want to offer my help on the matter. I am a owner of the Legacy and Airbnb operator. And to Brenda's comments, I only do Airbnb because I can't be there all the time as much as I'd like to. And if we can't do Airbnb, then the tourists that come to be there that 1 month a year that I can't make it, they're not going to come because not going to rent it at all. And then the town doesn't get the benefit of those people and what they bring to contribute to the local businesses and the local economy. So I also work in the tech sector. I am here to help. I want to get engaged. So thank you very much for having this open forum and letting me speak. And I look forward to talking with each one of you again. So thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate those comments. All right, we're gonna move on. All right, administration update, capital projects. Daryl, give us the update. Tell us all the good things that are happening in Sycamore.
Okay, we can start with the wastewater treatment plant. We've got the building is now built above the vault. The filter's about to go in. Mechanical and electrical contractors have been there on site for the last couple of weeks. So we're still aiming at commissioning that be the first week of April. The beach park, we've been in contact with caretakers of the land, and we are lining up some monitoring. We've still got a play structure to remove and replace with the new one. And the Saskew art piece going to be put in at that same time. And that'll just be to the north side of the concession. We have trail rehab work to do as well through the park. We're going to try and tie that all in with the caretakers so we can get a monitor to be on site and get those projects all going and finished as quickly as possible this spring. The pump track came before council not too long ago. We looked at some different locations. I think the next step is to get the proposed location confirmed. And what makes the most sense, I guess, from our perspective, is to get the Parks and Trail public engagement process to incorporate that pump track and get some feedback from the public. So we're looking to do that this spring. I believe it's May or May this year. We'll do that. And then we can get going with design. The Owlhead mountain bike trail system that we're trying to build. We had a couple of meetings with BC Timber Sales over the last week. We're going to be varying our plan a little bit. We initially applied for a Section 57, and the province is wanting us to take an ownership, a license of occupation for that to land. One of the components with getting approved is to have access up Owlhead Road, and so BC Timber Sales was a big part of getting permission to keep going with that. And we've learned last week that they are planning to do a couple of blocks of logging at the lower section. So that's going to impact our phase 1. So we are going to go back to the province and we're going to see if we can get phase 3 and 4 started at the top part, and we'll adjust our plan. It's not a rewrite, but it'll be modified. So we're not interfering with the logging that's going on when we go in to do our trail. A culvert on Kerr Road, we've had a couple of meetings on that in the last couple of weeks. It's a simple culvert. It's a lot of red tape. We've got a survey, a design, environmental impact assessment done, the construction plan, all those things have been approved. DFO has concerns with the fish passage through the culvert itself, even though the culvert would be bigger than it is now. So we met with the engineer, and I think we've come up with a plan to key in some riprap on the north side, so we won't have any pooling and We're gonna resubmit that to DFO and hopefully we can get that one done in August. Solsqua Bridge, the last batch of riprap has been blasted. It should be here in a couple of weeks. The pedestrian railing and the bike railing are being installed now. And as of this afternoon, I see a couple of streetlights have gone up along there. So we've got 2 up and 3 coming. The concrete is all done. They're out of the water completely. So we're getting close now. We're going to start looking at the surface and making a plan for getting the membrane down and getting that thing put to bed finally. And then just a small capital project we had for this year, the CPR Booster Station. So the small building at the base of CPR Hill going up to the villas is a booster station for the water system, and it pumps up to that reservoir. We identified that as kind of a weak point in terms of just our hazard assessments if the power goes down for a long time. So we had to retrofit that building to accommodate the generator that we've got on the trailer. So that's been completed. We tested that last Thursday and that's working fine. So that one will come off the list and we'll do Bayview next. And that's all I got.
Question for Daryl. Good job, Daryl. Got lots on our plate. I'm gonna be glad to see that bridge finalized. Anyway, it's getting there. All right, bylaw enforcement. John, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. Through the chair. As you can see by my report, there's been a fairly significant increase in complaints about dogs. We believe this is definitely due to the survey that we had out this month in regards to our new animal control, which will be bringing to council. And other than that, it's been primarily parking complaints. I did lots of evening patrols and quite a few tickets this month, or last month. Other than that, it's fairly straightforward. Is there any questions from council?
Good. Comments or questions for John? All right, John, thank you. Thanks for the report. Building development, Scott, you want to give us a report on that?
Sure. Thank you, Chair. So we have the building permit stats from February 2022. Yeah, a little bit slow right now to 2021. Really just in both years, one house only in 2021, then the house was, construction value was a little bit more. Self-explanatory. 5 permits. Current development applications. Probably looks pretty much the same as it did last month. One that's coming to council tonight. Couple others that were issued in January and February. So yeah, willing to answer any questions.
Great, thanks. Comments or questions for Scott? I'm gonna move on. Community services, Jason, you want to give us a report?
Yeah, I'm gonna come up here so Jamie can join me. She can do.
You knew you were moving out of your chair even before last day.
Yeah, exactly.
And Jamie?
I was hiding.
So we've got a little bit of a PowerPoint for you there. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council, and through the chair. This is basically a little past 3 months mark now that I've been here with the district of Sycamore. So it's my first opportunity to give an update of what we've been doing up to this point and maybe where we're going in the future as well. So run through some things here and hopefully do that. I might press the wrong button. Oh, there's an on switch.
The on switch.
Right off the top again.
Tricky.
There we go. It moved. It moved. So we're
I'll do it.
okay. Oh, that's back. For heaven's sakes.
No, Kelly can control it from.
Can you
I
control this?
certainly can.
Okay,
Just give her the signal.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Get me.
One more for me, please. So we're going to start with recreation. The 3 portfolios I'm taking care of currently. So we're going to start with recreation. When I got here, we recognized that sort of the most important thing that we do to sort of move forward with the rec and culture department is to build relationships, is to get to know people, form some partnerships, and get out there. So, so Jamie and I, starting in about mid-December and right through February, we've been meeting with everybody we can possibly do. Right now, we've met with over 30 community groups out there right now. We're talking to them about what we can do for them, what they can do for us, and we're hoping to get these partnerships going. And in terms of recreation, we've sort of challenged each one of these groups that by the end of the year, we'd like to see one program from every one of those different areas that's going to be running in the community. So it's not just up to Jamie and myself to come up with the programs and run the community, but also engage those groups in the community and get them to offer something in the community that we can run with them and work in partnership with them. So that's what we're trying to do. We're still at this moment a little limited in terms of space, POVs, and a few other things. COVID, unfortunately, although things are opening up, facilities are not one of them. They're still very difficult for us to get things inside. So we're doing the best we can. And in March, we're opening some new programs up, which Jamie will talk about. But as summer rolls around, we expect that this is going to blow open and we'll be able to do a lot more things. We've already seen some of these partners come to fruition, and we're running programs with them already. And we have a bunch more lined up for the summertime to do more with them as well. And sort of really important to say that this communication we've had these groups, this is an ongoing process. This is something we're going to keep doing. We're going to keep touching base with them, keep talking to them to make sure that the relationships develop and move forward.
Yep.
All right, so we're talking events. We haven't done events in 2 years, and we are going to be very progressive about moving forward with events for 2022 because we are getting that green light from all the indicators that we can start seeing going back to what somewhat normal used to be. On that note, we are going to be working with the following groups. So we are working with the Beyond the White Line Softball Academy, which hasn't ran for the last 2 years. We'll be working continuously with Deb Heap on the Fungi Fest. We are trying to work with the Monashi Music Fest, and we're awaiting some literature from them that we have asked for them for moving forward with their festival. We are looking at bringing in new this year, a skateboard and scooter camp, and this will be gauged for the ages from about the ages of 5 up until about 14. So we tried putting this together last year. Unfortunately, it was hampered by the fires, so that put that sideways, but they're very excited to come forth and work with us again this year. So we're looking at a 4-day window in August, right around the same time as the Sycamore Hockey School is going on. So trying to partner with those different pieces that we have going on in the community. Jake DeWitt, we're working with him on the softball tournament. Very excited that our first event is going to be our annual Easter egg hunt. So I will need some people to come out and help hide Easter eggs because the last event we had over 200 children at it. So we're hoping that we see that again this year. We'll be bringing back our movie nights. We'll be looking at doing that at Sycamore Beach Park under the tent with the new building concession, every walk there. So we feel that's a good fit for that event. We'll be working on the Family Fun Day in partnership with the Chamber. Of course, we'll be helping with the Sycamore's cleanup days. We'll be helping with the music in the park. We'll be working on a new program, and Jason's brought it to us, as birthday party packages. So things that we can, some scenarios where we have a leader go in and run some birthday parties from different things, from virtual realities to hair and makeup to all those types of things. And we provide the instructor, we provide the person, and then we provide the venue as well. Of course, this year will be our Key Cult Festival in conjunction with Splat Scene for Truth and Reconciliation Day. We are working with the Armstrong Rodeo as well as the Salmon Arm Fall Fair to rent our stage out to them for those 2 events to generate some revenue from our stage. And of course, Canada Day. Very excited to bring back Canada Day, and we're very excited. We're not going to announce it yet, but we're working on some key partnerships on that event. So stay tuned when it comes to that. One thing I do want to make note of is that Jason and I have spent quite a few meetings recently with the BCRPA, which is the BC Parks and Recreation. There's a lot of other communities in the province right now that have absolutely said no go for events this year. So I'm really excited that we are being progressive as we are, and that we are moving forward. Places like Whistler, Pemberton, Trail, things like that. They're not sure where the COVID was going to go, so they've elected not to move forward with events, and we're not going to take that route. We want to move forward. We want to move on with the way things are. So as Jason mentioned, we are working on some new programs. First thing of all, thanks to Sarah. She has made my scene, and we are going to be working on a new format moving forward with our rec guide coming up. Some key partnerships that we've made this year is with Okanagan College. So we will be offering food safe courses as well as first aid courses right here in council chambers. That's something that the community has always wanted. And I think now that COVID is lifted and that the demand is out there, they're seeing that they need to come to Sycamore, and they're seeing that we can be that venue for them. So we're going to provide them this space for them to offer first aid and the food safe class to the people in our community. Our one big proud moment is we are working with the Senior Center for an active aging fitness class. We always struggle with finding a venue, so we've created a partnership with them. The Senior Center is donating the use of their hall in exchange for us providing the instructor. So it's giving them the fitness classes that they need for the seniors that are looking to keep their muscle tone and that going. And we've hired in a wonderful instructor that was one of her commitments was on elder fitness and elder healthy nutrition. So she'll be working with them, and that's going to be a drop-in program. So there's no commitment to the seniors. They can just come in once a week when they don't have doctor's appointments, stuff like that, and we'll take care of all the rest for them. Sycamore softball. This is a twofold. We are working with Jake DeWitt, not only to help him with his tournaments, but we've actually taken on the registration process for Sycamore minor softball. So through our rec, you can actually come and register for programs. We charge the association a small administration fee. All of that information gets sent to Jake. It's a one-stop shop. I know it works because I had a lady phone me yesterday, say she's moving up from Vancouver. She went to her website, seen Sycamore minor softball, already signed her daughter up, which before she would have to be phoning to numerous different places to track down who it is that would be to sign her child up for softball. And then moving with the fundamental movement skills and the play shoe swap, we've elected, working with Jake, to take on the Learn to Play program. So that will be a ball program that will be focused on ages 4 to 9. And we will be looking after that through a paid instructor through the district of Sycamore, again, all through our Smart Rec program. And then working forward for the summer programs, we are going to be bringing in a junior ranger program that is going to teach kids all about the different nature and all the different herbs and flowers and everything here and conservation, and that's through Wild Safe BC. We're working on a paddleboard clinics, and we'll be working again, just a little snippet of some golf clinics again with Hyde Mountain. So that's just a little tidbit of where we're going with recreation programs.
All right. So what are we doing next in recreation? We've consulted with groups, and now it's time we're going to consult with the public. So we're going to start doing we're going to put some calls out there. We're going to do some public meetings here. We're going to meet with different groups out there as well and sort of get some feedback from the public as well as what they do. Now that we know what our groups can provide, we're going to go out there. We're going to start just mixing, matching, and making sure that we can actually do what the public want, or using the groups and match them up so that we can get the public in there. I'm going to jump ahead a little bit too, and we're going to do something called recreation by demand, which is effectively when we're meeting with the public, we're going to put a call out to people and say, what skills do you have? Are you automotive repair? Can you teach wellness classes? Can you do whatever else? And then we'll figure out a way to put that program on the public if they want to teach it. Find a place, location for them to go do so that it's, again, that expands the ability of what we can offer to the community, what else, and use the actual skills that are in the community instead of us dreaming up our own programs and have people tell us what they want to do. We're doing grant applications for funding for instructors and whatnot on our own. We're obviously going to expand our programs everywhere else, and we're going to really try to do a focus. One of the things that really stood out to me when I got here is we didn't have any nature or focused programming where we run groups, trail guides, whoever else. And when you take a look at what's around us, it seems really silly that we should be really kind of promoting those type of areas and specializing in that. So we're going to move in those directions. So that's it for the recreation program. Thank you, Jamie. Second part of our portfolio is facilities. It won't take as long, nearly as long as recreation as far as this goes. These are the district facilities that I've taken on in my portfolio is what I'm responsible for. The Finlayson building, the district offices, curling club, Little Bears daycare, the Eagle's Nest, kiosk, and the museum are the buildings that I'm responsible for and taking care of. Kelly, if you can go one more. And these are the sort of the responsibility areas that I'm doing in there. So responding to all the maintenance things that are there, taking a look at any requests that need to be done, looking at projects out into the future. Obviously, I'm meeting with the individuals that are in those buildings and finding out what needs to be done. We have implemented already a program that's called MaintainX, and it allows the people in those buildings to submit maintenance requests to me, and they come directly to me, and I can keep track of them so I can report out to council later as to exactly what we're doing and what type of repairs are needed in the buildings and where we're going with that. Pacific Quorum, I'm not sure if everybody's aware that that contract is ended now at the end of February with them taking care of the property management of the Finlayson building. That's something that's come over to my portfolio. So basically rent checks and any of those type of things that are happening in any of our lease or agreement facilities are all coming through me right now. And then of course, I'm also involved in existing projects that are out there. Daryl mentioned the pump track, mountain bike park, active transportation, and whatnot. And I couldn't get off the screen without mentioning Daryl and Scott, because they've been instrumental in helping me move through this process, getting to know the different regions of the city and the individuals that I need to know to be successful in my job. So thanks very much, guys. And then lastly is the fire department. This is probably the area that's certainly last but not least, but probably the least amount of time that I've spent on it so far, in that we already have a fire chief doing a fantastic job out there. So I don't need to step in and do his job. Basically what I'm doing is assisting him. I have two of his facilities, which is important because as we're going through all the budget, I need to know what equipment he's talking about, what fire trucks, what are the equipment, what does he have in stock, where does he store it, that kind of thing. We've moved his office. He was upstairs at City Hall and he's now over permanently at the fire hall. So he's operating out of there. I've been heavily involved in the Wiseman Creek project in terms of being there for all the meetings and things whatnot to catch up to speed. And I'm very familiar with that project now, what's going forward. And again, to support the chiefs through that process. His training facility, and then of course, a review of financial management. Really been reviewing the processes for purchasing, for training, for inspection processes that he's been going through as well. And next week, we actually have a course we've organized for the Emergency Operations Center Essentials. So we have 10 District of Sycamore staff there attending. It's here in Sycamore. We arranged it through the CSRD. So our staff is attending and we get 24 people total that'll be coming through from different places in the CSRD, so that next time we should have a major emergency like the fire, we'll have a bunch of staff that are familiar with the processes and should be able to help out in that process. So that's it. Sorry, a little bit longer than normal. Next one will be shorter now that I've got there, but if you have any questions, I'm free to answer.
Mr. Bushel, do you have a comment, being that it's your portfolio recreation? Go ahead.
Yeah, no, good job, Jason and Jamie. Just want to thank you for everything. I did meet with Jamie and Jason last week, and yeah, we had a good meeting, and yeah, they're doing a good job putting everything together. But now that they can get out and about with COVID hopefully behind us. Quick question for Jamie or Jason. We also talked about hockey registration. Did you make any headway with that as well?
Go ahead.
Thank you, Gord, through the chair. I actually met with Tricia Jeffries, who is the vice president of Sycamore Minor Hockey. We did actually offer up the same opportunity to do the registration through our new Smart Rec. However, Hockey Canada has a different system that unfortunately would not be compatible with the Smart Rec app that we have. However, that being said, we are going to advertise their AGM for them. We are going to advertise all the information so people can get registered through hockey, and we will include that on our in our rec guide and hopefully on our webpage as well. So making sure that we have that benefit, and they're one of the key components that we're looking at for assistance for our Canada Day and the road hockey tournament as well.
Okay, no, that's good. And also maybe advertise for new board members, because for Trish and Dwayne, they don't have kids in minor hockey anymore, and it'd be nice to have some new families in there.
Yes, no, thank you. No, we have several ideas to partnership with them to give them more exposure in the community the next few months. So.
Oh, great. Thanks very much. Good job.
I have a comment or a question in regards to the Sycamore Eagles. Can you give a report as where we're going with that, Jamie, and how strong that program is, and where we're at with that?
Well, I'm very, very proud and sad to say that our Eagles did get a 4-game sweep against the Revelstoke Grizzlies, but noting that the Revelstoke Grizzlies is one of the top teams in the KIJHL. We took the first game to double overtime with them in Revelstoke, and then we took them into single overtime in game 2. You know, we had 17 bodies on the bench. They had 22 bodies. Since our management and coach change after Christmas, there was a dramatic change in our team. Before Christmas, rumblings were not good in the nest. Kids weren't happy. When they did their exit interviews at the end of the season, all 17 kids wanted to return should they not make it up into a junior A or college level moving forward. We looked at that as a very positive sign. We will be moving forward with a main camp and a summer camp in July. Just working out the details and stuff right now with the Sycamore Rec Center. And yeah, we have high hopes for where our team is going to move on going forward. It was a very gracious end for a very difficult season, but we're very proud of the boys and where they ended up. And actually our one goaltender ended up as a player of the week. And one of our defensemen actually topped in the top 5 for top scoring defensemen for the whole JHL for rookies. So we'll take that as a huge compliment from where we've been in the past couple of years.
Yeah, just to comment on the Sycamore Eagles, I went to several games this year and it was exciting stuff. And I want to thank whoever might be online in the community for supporting the Sycamore Eagles and get out to those games next year and let's support those boys. It was there was times I just come right out of my seat. I was so excited with what I seen transpire over the years. So good job for everybody that involved with the Sycamore Eagles. Thank you. Any other comments for Rec at this time?
No.
All right,
Thank you.
I'm gonna move on. Thank you. Thanks, Jason. Thanks, Jamie. Great. See, CAO update. Evan, you're up now. You're on the hot seat.
Well, very good report, Jamie, Jason. Thank you. Following that Disney presentation in full Technicolor, I feel like an analog black and white TV. I want to talk about bioheat. Wow. So exciting. Another facility that will be added to Jason's responsibility. So the bioheat facility of which we receive funding for, the tentative groundbreaking ceremony will be in April 2022 with the 3 different funding agencies on signage. And once the signs are posted in the Sycamore Industrial Park, we'll be inviting representatives from the provincial and federal government alongside you, Mr. Mayor, for a groundbreaking ceremony. We are working now with 4 different tenants to hook up and working with Fink, who is the contractor. Exciting. Staff are very busy, as I am, on pursuing a lot of grants that have been announced both provincially and nationally. I talked earlier about the Active Transportation Fund, whereby the District of Sycamore most likely will be applying for a planning grant for $50,000 to assist in the design cost estimate and detailed design drawings of a possible pedestrian bridge to link downtown Sycamore with the rail to trail. That deadline is the end of the month, and so staff led by Scott and Daryl will be working diligently with Urban Systems to prepare that application for the planning grant, in the hope that we can work with our partner Splash Scene and reach our goal in building this world-class beacon, if you will, this icon called a pedestrian bridge and spanning the Narrows. We also have led by our general manager of our community health center, Karen. She is on a History Matters workshop at the end of the month at the Red Barn, where we're going to bring in several stakeholders in our new proposed community health center. And we are going to have a workshop on the history of Splash Scene, First Nations involvement in Canada since time immemorial, and the relationship that we have built over the years and what that means moving forward, truth and reconciliation, et cetera. So that's been scheduled for March the 29th. It's the same day as the mayor's breakfast, but you're going to talk about that, Mr. Mayor. And finally, we have more and more attention being spent on Wiseman Creek. We have a delegation tonight, and we are focusing on alerting the residents of the Sycamore mobile home park down at 2 Mile on the potential debris flow in the next 24 months, as per the fires we had last July. The debris flow most likely is going to occur in some degree as a result of all those trees that went up. And when you lose canopy and you lose the trees, the roots get exposed. And if there's heavy rains and we anticipate a normal freshet or an extreme freshet, you have the possibility of a debris flow. So we will be continuing to update the residents of the park and the residents in the surrounding 2 mile area. Other than that, staff continue to pour a lot of work in terms of the infrastructure and public works and the ongoing day-to-day maintenance led by Daryl and his team, and Scott, of course, with his planning development. It's never been busier in terms of applications and dealing with the different proposals. And there's a lot more coming. A lot of them are in the planning stage, but we're starting to see some fruit developing on the trees. That's exciting. And of course, with our new addition of Jason and trying to expand recreation and trying to get the events back, because that's what we're known for. That's what we're famous for. But most importantly, that's what we're proud of. So we're hoping to get the events here. So kudos to all the staff. And we've already acknowledged the wonderful work of the finance department and the budget. We don't need to inflame the ego of Kelly Bennett anymore, but finance has always done a super job, and she concludes that tonight when she does her report. So with that, like I said, sorry for being the black and white TV. I'll have a PowerPoint next time. You set a new bar, Jason.
Thanks, Evan. Any comments or questions for Evan? Mr. Malmus?
Who are you gonna get to do your PowerPoint?
Well, Jason and Jamie. And Sarah Kylo.
All right, thanks, Evan. Okay, so moving on to strategic priorities, counselors, is there any one of the strategic priorities you'd like to comment or question at this particular stage? There's a whole list of them. We're working on every one of those strategic priorities. We have been for the year. Some of them we've accomplished and some we're still working on. Councillor McCabe, go ahead.
And just a quick one on housing. District of Sycamore, through his worship, has appointed some councillors on a housing committee and 3 members from the general public at our first meeting. And our first task is to update our strategic housing plan. If I got that right, Brenda is also one of the members in the committee. So yeah, just a quick update there.
Actually, we have to announce that Brenda actually was chosen as a chair by the committee as well. So we'll do a great job. Thanks,
My
Brenda.
apologies, Brenda Gazelle is also the
All right, any other comments on the priorities? All right, we will move on. Okay, it's councillors' reports time. Mr. Bushel, do you like to start? You can start with your report, and being that you're online.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Mayor, through the chair. I didn't have a lot to report. I've been, my job has taken me out of town for a bit, but last week I met with, like I said, I met with Scott and, I met with Jamie and Jason in regards to some minor hockey coaches. So we're working on getting together with them and helping them out in any way we can. Met with Scott, Jeff, and local developer in town, trying to help his development go through the process. And just been fielding lots of calls from different developers and business in town. There seems to be a lot of activity, so that's good. That's good news. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Councillor Anderson.
I attended the Columbia Shuswap Watershed Council meeting. For those that don't know, we advocate for clean water, look for funding for best practices for farmers, forestries, anyone working near the watershed. Today, they nominated 4 new people, residents at large onto the committee, a couple of forestry people, dairy farmers, and environmentalists. And a couple of things that did come up again is Quagga zebra mussels. It's that time of year, so the checks will be opening and making sure that we are encouraging clean, drain, and dry, and not just from coming into BC now, but when you leave the Shuswap Lake, because Asian clams have been found in the Shuswap Lake. So when you pull your boat out of the Shuswap Lake and you're taking it to another body of water, you need to clean, drain, and dry it. If you don't, you're taking the Asian clams from the Shuswap Lake to another lake. So we need to be spreading that a message as well. Also, the other thing is aquariums, pet store aquariums. People think that just dumping your aquarium into the lake is a great idea. It is not. Those moss balls contain quagga and zebra mussels. So they've been found in there. So if you've got an aquarium, don't put your goldfish in the water in the lake. Strain and drain your aquarium and then just get the remainder to the landfill site. Put that in your septic system or into your lake. So we need to share that message as well, because I'm sure we all know people that have flushed down the toilet or just gone to the lake and poured them in. So that was it for the watershed meeting. I'd like to just take a minute to recognize Ukraine and all the strong men and women there fighting the battle and wish them well.
Thanks, Colleen. Councillor McCabe, you're up.
Canada Housing Committee meeting. That was about council duties. Finished that web course I was doing on housing. I have to hand in my final assignment. Short as that. Yeah, I just can't believe what's going on in Ukraine. It's just the whole world should unite behind and support them.
Series.
I also attended our inaugural housing meeting. Something we need a lot of thought put into going forward, especially all the money getting spent on housing around here. And regarding communities in bloom, Master Volunteer Deb Heap thinks we can get 5 blooms and has fielded a lot of questions about sunflowers as people would like to grow them in support of Ukraine. Unfortunately, sunflowers often don't mature until kind of late in the season, but there's a lot of varieties out there, and I know I have a lot of seeds myself. For members of the public who are keen on that or any volunteering opportunities that communities in bloom may present, the Facebook page is a good way to stay up to date and to contact Deb Heap. But take it easy on her, she's a volunteer. And community cleanup is going to be coming up in the next, I know I'm not busy that day, but I forget what day it is. Always a great event. Thanks.
Thanks, Ryan. Jeff, go ahead.
Yeah, the community spring cleanup is April 30th. And I'd like to thank everybody that turns out every year for that. That's started our first year. And our first year we pulled out 26 tons of debris from the ditches. And it was a good thing we got free landfill, no charge for the landfill. And every year it's gotten less and less. So it's a good thing. It's helped create a good view for our community. There's lots of great people that show up to it. There's always a good lunch at the Legion. So they volunteer that. So anybody who's available on the 30th of April, please show up. We always meet at the curling rink at 8 o'clock. And then we disperse from there. And our champion Deb Heap's always there, but our other champion, Mr. Bryant Labray, is always there too. He shows up with his bobcat and his brush beater, and we knock down some little trees and suckers and clean up the ditches so that the sight lines and highways are not looking after or actually looked after. So yeah, you put the word out, that'd be great. Thanks.
Thanks, Jeff. Bob.
Thanks. Yeah, I spent a couple hours with some of our firefighters the other day, and they work hard, and a lot of them are working through a lot of issues that we've seen things over the years, and I'm looking forward to take some training with them in crisis management and that kind of stuff. And I thank our fire chief for giving me that opportunity. And every Monday I get to make breakfast at the high school as your liaison with the PAC there, and they work hard to feed the kids, and they get waffles and sausages. I skipped the waffles this week because I found out there was 30 grams of carbs in one Eggo. So, and then grad exit interviews begin this week, and I'm going to be doing those at the high school because it's spring. It's supposed to be anyway.
Wow. That time of year already. The councilors pretty much addressed most of the things that I've been involved with, but different meetings, Economic Trust of the Southern BC, a lot of budgetary meetings right now with the North Okanagan Hospital Board. Really pleased to see the Housing Committee. Congratulations to Brenda once again for being the chair of that. Attending all the planning committee meetings. The Rail Trail Fundraising Committee meetings as well. And softball registration is going on right now, and we're looking forward to seeing lots of really good softball and a real concern when it comes to world events, and that's what's happening in Ukraine. Concerning, but I don't know whether the world knows what to do about it, anyway, it's really painful to watch what's happening with the people there, but anyway, it is what it is, and hopefully we can get it resolved somewhere along the line, but I think it's going to take some time. All right, that's my report. We got anybody online right now?
Many online, but no hands raised this time. Anyone would like to address council, please raise your hand. Oh, Deb has her hand.
Oh, come on. Didn't say it.
Deb Heath. Yeah, Communities in Bloom. You are on. Go ahead. You're on mute.
There we go. Sorry, I couldn't go 2 meetings in a row with not saying something. So Ryan's already covered a bit. Just a couple things I want to mention. Communities in Bloom is going to do a lot more partnering with the farmers market this year. A lot of events at the farmers market to try and help promote it. So I'm going to get a lot of that information online shortly. I was asked, just so you guys know, I was asked to be on the board for Provincial Communities in Bloom this year, and I respectfully declined. I said I'm going to be too busy in Sycamore.
All right.
So hopefully that doesn't screw us up on our 5 blooms, but.
Thanks, Deb.
Yay.
Anyone else?
Seeing no more hands.
All right. Just one comment on Deb Heap and the amazing job she's doing with Communities in Bloom. And once again, we're going to do a cleanup at the end of April. Join in. All right. We now have delegations. So Rob or Derek Sutherland, are you online? Oh, there you go. Come on in. He's going to give us a on 2-mile debris flow risk swap emergency program. Well, before us.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Council. So we'll just get this popped up here on the screen. So I appreciate you inviting me down to speak to you today about the work that the Shuswap Emergency Program staff have been doing on the Wiseman Creek issues. And certainly, obviously, back in November, we were informed of a severe risk of a debris flow in the Wiseman Creek draw. And unfortunately, the Sycamore Creek Mobile Home Park is right at the bottom of that draw. So there's a lot of risk right now to the Sycamore Creek Mobile Home Park and the post-wildfire debris flow. It's important to note that this creek draw is not otherwise prone to debris flow in normal circumstances. The only time that this creek draw is prone to debris flow is after a wildfire has occurred. So the risk in this draw reduces significantly after 2 to 3 years of vegetation regrowth in the area. So I appreciate the opportunity to come and speak to you today, give you an update on what we've been doing. And so I'm going to run through a few of the priorities that the team's been dealing with. And then afterwards, we can have some time for questions, and it doesn't bother me at all if you want to jump in and ask a question as we're going to. So some of the areas that we've been working on are the qualified professional work. So that's usually the geotechnical engineers, the EMBC funding requests, community capacity building. We've been putting a lot of time and energy into that, and leveraging our partnerships around the community and provincially, and communication strategies. So with the qualified professional work, we've been leaning on these three documents, which are the post-wildfire assessment. That was the original document done from the work in the fall that was presented in November. And that's the document that addresses the risk of debris flow. We have about 100% risk of debris flood in that watershed. Debris flood, if it stays as a debris flood from a relatively low level rain event, the situation should be a nuisance situation rather than a risk to life safety. But there's about a 75% chance of a debris flow. If it's a debris flow, then it's a much more serious debris laden kind of materials coming out of that creek draw, and much more devastating for and damaging for the community at the bottom of the draw. Again, it depends on the weather system that brings down the debris, on how severe that's going to be. It can go anywhere from nuisance debris flow, a hard cleanup, to total devastation. So we're obviously preparing for the worst and hoping for the best. There is a chance that whatever flows will get hung up in the watershed, and but we aren't counting on that, that's for sure. Then we engaged BGC through Embc funding to provide us with a mitigative option study. The end result of that study was less than great. There wasn't any good one option to help us mitigate the effects of this situation. So range from very expensive and then of course BC Timber Sales then sent us a referral, and as they did with the District of Sycamore, they sent the CSRD a referral saying that they wanted to do salvage logging in the area to salvage the timber that was burnt this year, which seems like a decent idea to salvage some of the dollars in that watershed that are just standing there burnt up. But there is some real hesitation on the part of the geotechnical engineer to say that work is safe. There's a lot of risk that can be incurred with taking out some of that wood, especially with all the equipment that is going to be disturbing the soils and that. And there's a real environmental, there's some evidence that there's real environmental good that can be done by leaving the timber there too. So we're really worried that if salvage logging comes in there in the wrong way, that it's going to increase the risks of communities at the bottom of the draw. So the EMBC funding request, I'm just going to stick on my glasses here so I can actually see. We've asked for some kind of 4 big asks. The post-wildfire assessment was about $30,000 worth of work. That was approved, completed. The mitigative options analysis was about $38,000 worth of work that was approved and completed. The feasibility study for moving the mobile homes in Sycamore Creek Mobile Home Park has not been funded to this point. It was denied by the Embc Central Region, but we were passed off to Embc Mitigation Branch, and Embc Mitigation Branch is still assessing whether they would fund this feasibility study. This isn't an ideal solution, obviously. There's a lot of complexities involved with this. The feasibility study was meant to inform us of whether it's an actual a viable option or not. It obviously is the it would, in the mitigative options analysis, the geotechnical engineer identified moving the mobile homes in that park as the best way of avoiding the risk and mitigating any damage or risk to the safety of the individuals in that area. And then the early warning system, in my mind, is a must. This request for this system has not been approved yet. We asked for the money in early December, and we haven't received a response yet. I am speaking with the senior regional manager at EMBC every day, trying to get this funding approved. What we're running into is some roadblocks around all the fires that happened in 2021 created similar issues in other areas, and they have they're telling me they have a lot of requests for these types of early warning systems, and they're not inexpensive. So this system for our area is about $30,000, and they're trying to figure out a provincial policy around how to deal with them uniformly. So my argument to them is we do not need this long term. We don't need this going forward for the next 10 years. We need this for 2 to 3 years maximum. And so our situation may be different than a lot of the other situations that are out there. So I have hope that this is the arguments are gaining traction. Andrew, the senior regional manager, is in discussions with BC Wildfire to come up with the money for this. The new provincial budget was helpful in this regard, and the money that's been made available for mitigation strategies for wildfire and the effects of wildfire. And there's he's being a little bit closed, but there's other options that he's exploring as well to get this funded. So I'm very hopeful that this will be funded and funded soon from EMBC. So Freshet starts in April, and that's what we're considering as the beginning of our landslide season. Next priority that we've been dealing with is community capacity building. And we've been pouring a lot of energy into this at the Sycamore Creek Mobile Home Park, along with the District of Sycamore staff. We have engaged with the senior center, and the senior center knows what's going on, knows that there's going to be a possible evacuation of that area, and that we'll be using their center to set up a reception center for the evacuees. We've also placed equipment, IT equipment, computers, printers, and internet modem hubs at the senior center that can be stood up within about half an hour. We have a crew of ESS volunteers that are in Sycamore. There are Sycamore special teams, and there are Sycamore residents that are going to be supporting Sycamore residents. So they've already started connecting individually with residents in the Sycamore Creek Mobile Home Park and making those connections. So the people in the mobile home park are hopefully very well connected to the emergency program at this point. We've created a specific suppliers list in Sycamore with Sycamore businesses that will help us with lodging and food if necessary, restaurant vouchers if necessary, and any kind of clothing needs or toiletries, that sort of thing. We're set up for that. We've also set up a neighborhood emergency program in the Sycamore Creek. We have a couple of residents there leading that initiative. So our friend Lanny is in there leading that, and she's getting support from her friend Kelly in the mobile home park. So they are connecting as the neighborhood emergency program with the individuals in the mobile home park as well. And we're using that program as a conduit to funnel information to the people in a timely manner. One way, one conduit for information funneling. And then for those people that need a little extra support or don't drive, some of the more vulnerable populations in the mobile home park, we've connected them with some of their neighbors that are willing to help them out in case of a evacuation. So we have a high level of confidence that when an evacuation is ordered, that it'll be done quickly and everybody has a responsibility and everybody knows what that responsibility is. Have done a lot of work letting the community know that we may ask them to evacuate and nothing will happen. They'll be allowed to go back home. And then we may ask them to evacuate and then nothing will happen and they'll be allowed to go back home. And we may ask them to evacuate 3 or 4 more times. And we're really, really concerned about evacuation fatigue and them ignoring the issues and then ignoring it at the wrong time. So we've communicated that to the residents, and I think the residents are understand that we can't accurately predict when this is going to come down. We can only accurately predict them, or not even accurately predict the weather, but predict it with a high enough degree of accuracy that we can say we're in risk area right now. And we're going to order an evacuation. So if that is the case, we would be coming to council and the mayor for their authorization for the evacuation orders as per the bylaw. So leveraging our partners, we have a good relationship with Environment Canada, and Environment Canada has put us kind of on their radar as a place that's vulnerable at the moment, and will be letting us know when we have those forecasted rain events that are going to be concerning. Obviously, this isn't the same as an early warning system, which is, we have a higher degree of confidence in, but Environment Canada is aware and is connected directly with our team. So I'm happy about that until we can get that early warning system going. And of course, we're monitoring regularly, as we always do before freshet, the snowpack data, which is a little lower than average at the moment, which is a good sign for us. So we connected with BC Ambulance and the Sycamore station and let them know what the issues are. We've also connected with Interior Health to notify them that some of their clients are going to be that live in the mobile home park are in jeopardy, and they may be responsible for providing them with assistance in an emergency evacuation. So we had one instance there where BC or an Interior Health official said, well, we'll just call the ambulance. So we phoned the ambulance and said, this is their plan. Is that driving with what you have? And they said, absolutely not. This is not what we do. So we came up with a different plan. We made a different plan for that. And we worked with Interior Health to make sure that that was done. We've contacted the SPCA. We're really struggling with the hotels that take pets. After the wildfire season, we really leaned heavily on our hotel suppliers, and a lot of them are refusing to take pets, cats in particular, going forward. So we may end up having to separate people from their pets, and we're arranging with the SPCA to take good care of those animals when people are going into. We're also working with Shoe Shop Search and Rescue and Sycamore RCMP. In the evacuation planning. We'll be doing an exercise in April with Shoe Shop Search and Rescue that are solely based on an evacuation of the 2 mile area. It'll be a tabletop exercise, and we're kind of in a room together discussing all the nuances about what an evacuation is going to bring and mean for the residents in the area and the first responders that are going to have to be implementing that. So. And then, of course, we're connecting directly with BC Timber Sales. Great discussion a couple weeks ago with our geotechnical engineer and their hydrologists, and debating the merits of salvage logging or the concerns around salvage logging. So we're having direct conversations with BC Timber Sales as well about that issue. So. Finally, we're working with a comprehensive communications plan. Essentially, we have individual contacts for every resident in the Sycamore Creek Mobile Home Park. We are connecting one-on-one weekly with certain members of the mobile home park, residents of the mobile home park that are particularly worried. Anxieties are high, understandably, and we're talking with them every single week, giving them updates on what's going on. So we have a social media communications plan, and we have analog communications going up, which is just a laminated poster on the side of the mailbox. And that analog communications, I think, is going to get more views than anything else in that area. So there's a lot of people who aren't using technology, aren't on Facebook, aren't on Twitter, and but go to the mailbox every single day and look around to see what's new. So we'll be keeping up to date information there, and Brett is keeping that up to date for us. We've also given one-on-one support to those individuals that need help getting onto the Alertable app. And we're fairly confident that most of the residents in the Sycamore Creek Mobile Home Park are on the app now. And so for those people who don't have mobile devices, we have notifications going to their telephone. We have notifications going to people's emails. We have push notifications going to people's phones who have more technologies. I'm really that we've had with the Alertable app. So we hosted that all community meeting with the 2 Mile residents in December of 2021. And then in February of 2022, we had a specific meeting with the residents of the Sycamore. It was really well attended. So I was really pleased about that. We didn't get as much attendance from the mobile home park as I would like at the December meeting. So we did at the February meeting, and I was happy. In addition, the NEP coordinator is communicating directly with the residents in the area. And of course, we're doing one-on-ones with that. So that's it for my formal presentation. To kind of reassure council that since the fall and since the risk profile was identified to the emergency program, there hasn't been a higher priority in our office. We've been completely obsessed, as one person put it in our office today, with creating resilience around this Wiseman Creek issue and hassling the province to an early warning system. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Councillor Momus and Councillor Evans.
Derek, thank you very much. I know you guys in your office are diligently working towards this, but after your last presentation, you were hopeful that soon you would get this $30,000 for the early warning system. And as you said, April was when the freshet starts, and so this is March the 9th, so you haven't got much time left. So
1 day.
I'm a little bit remiss that the government's just going like we're not the priority. So I'd like to put forward a motion that the District of Sycamore somehow dilly into the EOF fund, come up with some money, $15,000 or whatever, and we contribute to getting this done. Because like those people over there have the right to know whether the side of that hill is coming down or not. It wasn't anything to do with them. It's a fact of life of where we all live. We all live on an alluvial fan. This office is on an alluvial fan. So, at any time there could be a serious flood that does great damage to this community. We had that in 2012 with the Waterways property. I was standing there and watched that. That's a hell of a show. And there is not much warning. So to get out of the way, if an early warning system would do it, then I'd like to make a motion that we talked about this loosely, but we thought that the government would actually come, and staff gave you kudos for getting it done. And from listening to you, I'd say that you probably have put every effort forward, and you beat the door every day. So I think it's up to us now to actually step up to the plate.
All right, Counselor Evans.
Thank you. And I would enthusiastically second that motion, Councilor Wallace. If I may ask a couple of questions, is it that they think the berm is too expensive and then they wonder, even if they put the money out, if it would even work? That first idea to build a berm to funnel it away from
The deflection berm that's addressed in the mitigative options analysis, I think there's a high degree of confidence that it would work, but it's cost prohibitive, and it's $3.2 million. And that's a high level estimate. It could, we all know the way construction costs are coming in right now. Everything's coming in over budget, it seems. And so that's a very high level estimate, and it wouldn't be funded by EMBC. It's considered mitigative work, and they only pay for response. So it would have to be funded from the District of Sycamore's coffers, which would be, I think, cost prohibitive. So in conversations with staff.
And thank you. And secondly, are we pretty sure that we're able to postpone the logging and leave the timber alone?
Certainly through the chair, through the mayor. The board has, the CSRD board has made recommendation that a moratorium be placed on BC timber sales logging in that area, in that creek draw. I wouldn't go so far as to say I'd have a high degree of confidence that BC timber sales wouldn't make their own decision against that that suggestion. I know I think it's been discussed around this table as well. But essentially, BC timber sales obligation to a board recommendation is nil, and it's their timber. They can end up doing what they want if they want to, but it would be ill-advised, according to our geotechnical engineer on qualified.
Go ahead.
So you mentioned the word tomorrow. Are you thinking like this week is when we need to find out if we're going to get the new warning system, and how long would it take to get that up and running? Do you think that if there's a good chance we put in this money that it would help?
So through the chair, this expense is an expense that, in my understanding of the legislation, is absolutely 100% an EMBC expense that they need to incur. And like I say, I'm in daily contact with the senior regional manager at EMBC in Kamloops, and he was supposed to have an answer for me before this meeting today. Unfortunately, it didn't work out, and but we're talking every single day, and I informed you today that we're on day 89 since we made this financial request, and it's getting to the point where the government is become inert in making the decision to fund these early warning systems. So, and with around the corner, they know that they have to make a decision quickly. Hope is, and would estimate in favor that it's going to come this week. Yeah, either confirmed or denied. Yeah, thank you.
Councilor Almost go ahead.
To do with the motion that I put forward to start with, if the District of Sycamore came up with the funding and then the province actually comes up with the funding, would we get reimbursed for any costs we put out, or no, that's just gone?
Yeah, that's how the system works through the chair. We always front the money anyways and seek reimbursement from EMBC. So yes, the district would be reimbursed if it was funded, but I would caution council, if council decided to self-fund this mechanism, EMBC may be more inclined to deny the funding for the mitigation option or the response option.
We've talked about this and we realize the importance for the safety of the people at 2 Mile that we would be willing in order to fund this. And we thought maybe we could go through the EOF fund or something in order to accommodate that. But so we might just go ahead through resolution in order to make that happen, because we got to have a warning system in place for the safety of those people regardless. And we can't wait on other people to make decisions on this. So we might make that decision ourselves. Councillor Bushel, you wanted to comment online? Go ahead.
Yes, through the chair. Thank you. Yeah, Bob kind of touched on it. Derek, if you ordered it tomorrow, how long does it take to get and how long does it take to set up?
Right, sorry, I forgot to answer that part of the question. And through the chair, we have our geotechnical engineer ready to push the button, the go button. They've already established what the thresholds are. And they have an office out of Kingston, Ontario, with an engineer that specializes in these kinds of systems. He's been fully briefed and is ready to implement the system as soon as we say go.
Okay, thanks. All right, more comments? Go ahead, Jeff.
So I put forward a motion and I have a seconder. Are we going to?
Thank you to the chair. Can I was to contribute $15,000 toward the early warning system?
Well, 15 or 30, like we talked about the CSRD contributing as well, but that doesn't matter to us. We need it.
Well, let's.
I don't know if there's any money in the EOF fund. Kelly,
how can we fund this?
That's a good question. It's not really an EOF type of thing now.
Probably not, no.
Tax.
Taken of a mechanism.
Economic opportunity.
We got to get this done.
Correct. So I can fund it from our operating reserve. We haven't finalized the budget. It'll be at the next council meeting, so I can add 30,000 funded from the operating reserve, which then doesn't necessarily affect taxes.
So what was the number, Evan?
Well, question to the corporate officer. Is there a motion already that will fund up to 50% of the 30,000?
There was, I would say unofficially, Jeff, yes.
I believe I shared that with Derek, and Derek's saying, just thank you.
Sorry.
Let's hold off and go to the province. But what you're asking, Councillor Momus, is that we amp it to full 100%, just so we can fast track if indeed Derek runs into troubles with the Embc or a non-commitment. Because I think there was a verbal express commitment from council, 50% of 30,000.
Correct, yes.
15,000. I think Councillor Momus is asking to map it up to an additional 15 for the full, just to deal with this potential critical issue, correct?
Correct, through the chair. If they get the funding back, okay. But we're 2 weeks away from another council meeting.
Right.
So let's do it today. Let's say, okay, Derek, you kick some tires around, and if by Friday, you got to know better than we do what the drop dead date is. And if the funding's available, then we're good to go. But other than that, we got to call a special council meeting, or it's 2 weeks away. And 2 weeks from today is the end of the month, and that's the start of the fresh set already. So I'm just suggesting that if we wait another council meeting, it's not going to be of your to advantage if you don't have it from the government. So
yeah, I get your point. Can you read the resolution?
So would it be contribute $30,000 funded from operating reserve contingent on the Embc not funding it by a certain date?
Derek, pick the date.
Yeah, through the chair, Friday, I think would be adequate.
Okay. Do I have a seconder on that? Councillor Evans, any more comments or questions on this? Evan, did you have a comment?
You guys go.
Okay.
Sorry, can I just?
This is extremely important. We're talking about the safety of those people out there. And so I'm going to call the question. All those in favor?
I just, so, sorry, Derek, you said that if this does go through, or they don't get the funding to us, they will reimburse us if it does go through. Is that correct?
Yeah, if they authorize the EAF request, then they will be, this money will be reimbursed.
Okay, and you're saying that Friday is the day that you have to pull the trigger, like? 2 days from now.
Yeah, through the chair, I think that's accurate.
Okay.
Okay, we're putting a mechanism in place. Okay, any other comments on this? Call the question. All those in favor? Gordo, thank you.
Yep.
Carried unanimously. Thank you. All right.
Terry, sorry. For Derek Lees, I'd be remiss if I didn't publicly acknowledge the work of the shoe shop emergency program for the fires of 2021. For the benefit of those in the room, we pay for the service through our partnership with CSRD, and Derek's team leads the shoe shop emergency program, works very closely with the chief and works closely with Public Works. But they are our go-to team that address the fires, they address the annual potential floods and all the logistics that go with it. And despite our differences with the CSRD and other areas, the shoe shop emergency program is like professional grade. And the work that the persistent work that Derek does in dealing with the provincial authorities and working with the different agencies to support our community is outstanding. It's been shown in the floods, it's been shown last year in the fires. And we're in day-to-day contact with Derek's team. So I just want to publicly acknowledge the work of Derek and his team and thank them very much, because we're a vulnerable community and you've always been there. So thank you.
As well, and the relationship that we've had with the emergency preparedness group and yourself and Kathy, and the key to the problem that we have and the challenges with 2 Mile and what you've done in over the period of times when it's been communication, and it's been stellar, absolutely stellar. Talking to those people out at 2 Mile and whatever. I mean, and the meetings you had, and yes, your program is just absolutely stellar, and we enjoy working on the communication you have with us as well, and with Brett and so forth. So it's all good. Thank you, Derek, and thank Kathy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and certainly I echo that with the district Sycamore staff, top notch, and completely on board with anything that we need. So much appreciated. Right back at you.
And thanks for the hard work. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Our pleasure.
Hey, thanks for that, Evan. And now we're going on to the BC Dock Owners Association. I think that there should be a group representing the Dock Coalition at this stage, or the on.
So we have Isha online, but I believe that Mr.
I think they're.
Hi, Jeremy.
We've also got my colleague Andrew House on the line too.
Everyone.
All right, so we have somebody online. And we have Natalie here also, Jeremy. Hi, Natalie. Jeremy, all right, so we should have Baskin online, and the lawyer is
Andrew House.
Alicia?
Andrew House and.
Was Andrew going to be there? Okay. All right.
Right here, your worship. Andrew's online. Nice to be with you.
Okay, so Jeremy and Natalie, you have the floor, and we're here to listen. Go ahead.
I'll just be quick. I think Andrew's going to have the brunt of the presentation today. I'm just going to start by, commenting that I'm now on my 15th month without a dock. So, back in 2019, we all stood in this room and we were told that we would never lose our docks. I can also report that there's been 2 more owners now that have been threatened either removal of dock or lack of access to their docks. So this is heating up. It's getting even more and more confrontational with the CSRD. So our meeting tonight is to hopefully find a solution to that. But what I want to focus on in my introduction is just the economic impact of this. I don't think that we've spent as much time on that as we may have with the Dock Coalition. But just from my own side, my intention was to start a business in this community, or to bring a part of my business to this community, and should have been set up by now, which would have been a tech business, and leveraging my expertise in that field
and bringing it into this community. I can also report now that I'm bringing on 10 more programmers, so that's about $1.5 million in salary, which all of those people would have been invited to be at this place. So there is a real economic cost. The other thing I would mention is that in my day job, my wealth management side of my business, I spend most of my time working with extremely successful high net worth individuals who invest money in all kinds of different areas. My consulting firm is about $240 billion that we have influence on. So it's a pretty sizable chunk of change. And those people have not been brought to this community and been introduced to the opportunities that I saw when I first came here. Because of this confrontation, as many of you know, we brought in Faskin, so we brought in some experts that deal with government malfeasance and government issues. So I'm going to turn it over to Andrew and Talisha, and then we'll go through our presentation tonight. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Jeremy.
Well, thank you all very much for having us. Let me start on a positive note by simply noting how reminiscent this proceeding is to meetings I used to attend in my hometown of Gander, Newfoundland. It's making me a little bit homesick. I haven't been to Sycamore in a long time, but I've taken such a positive impression of the place. It's one of the most beautiful parts of British Columbia, which is one of the most beautiful provinces in Canada. And it saddens me that you have all faced what I view as a series of governance issues that have been quite ugly. And I've had a chance to speak with members of the community. I'm coming to you tonight from Ottawa. Again, my name is Andrew House. I'm a partner at Faskin. I work in government relations in our compliance shop, which deals with sometimes ways in which governments go wrong. And so in one sense, I'm not really here tonight to talk to you exclusively about docs, but rather about your relationship with another level of government that, in my view, does not have the best interests of the community at heart. And I want to substantiate that. I want to provide you with the reasons why I believe that is true and what should be done about it. The way that semi-waterfront dock owners have been treated by the CSRD, in my view, is merely a symbol of that relationship gone wrong. And before I dive into this, mindful of time, I just want to say and make very clear that dock owners, both publicly and privately in my conversations with them, want to see the rail trail done. The trail is a good idea, deserving of support, but it has to be done fairly for all, not just residents, but the community of Sycamore, the entire region. It needs to work for everyone. Let me start by illustrating what I think the problem is that we are collectively facing. And Talisha, I'll get you to advance to that slide.
It should be up now.
Okay, there's often a delay, but it'll pop up. So one of the first things that, and I'll just bring it up on my screen because there is a bit of a delay here. Bear with me. So the problem as I see it is what regional government was meant to be versus what it has become. This is an excerpt from a province of British Columbia website that talks about the nature of regional government in BC, which is a unique system across Canada or in Canada. Member municipalities lend their authority to the regional scale government rather than being under its authority. And I guess I put to you the question, how many of you feel that is true in your relationship with CSRD, in your dealings with regional government? Do you feel you've lent authority, or do you feel repeatedly that you find yourself under its authority, bearing the brunt of that authority brought down on you? And I know that you'll have a lot of questions for me. That's one of those that I would put to you as you listen to what I'm saying. What regional government has become in your part of BC is as follows, in my view, and I'm going to go through each of these. And Talisha, maybe we can move ahead to the first of those, which is what I believe is a fabricated conflict. If you look at the picture in front of you, you'll recognize this is such a well-known part of the community in the Narrows. These are the docks in question that people have been fighting about. I call this a fabricated conflict because if you just look down at this aerial view, it's so clear that the docks and the trail don't actually overlap. You can walk along the trail and not bump into a dock. You can sit on a dock and not be in the way of the trail. Some communities face horrible issues around expropriation, literally the gut-wrenching decision to knock down someone's home so that a road can be built. These are terrible decisions that municipalities face all across the country. You don't face that here. CSRD doesn't face that. There is no actual conflict in the real world. Instead, this has very much been a conflict about personality and ego, possibly ideology. But dollars to donuts, it is not actually a fight about where these docks are placed. They don't impede the rail trails. This is the first thing I'd like to just set the stage with. As we move to the next slide, I just want to go through some of the things that the dock owners have faced over the months that you all have observed and I'm sure taken on board. But let me just speak in terms of headlines. Here's the first headline. CSRD administrator says updated agreement with Shuswap property owners functionally the same. I just give plain meaning to those words, functionally the same. It functions in the same way as the old CP agreement. The first thing I would say is that the CP agreement was not a panacea. It worked in the hands of a benevolent owner that really seemed to not want to in any way impede the use of docks, quite happy to have the docks there, but wanted to normalize that relationship. The same agreement, if it were the same, would still have been quite dangerous in the hands of a landowner that did not want the docks there. And it's my submission to you respectfully that CSRD does not want these docks to remain. But critically, the document itself, the crossing agreement that CSRD would like the dock owners to sign is fundamentally not the same. We did a side-by-side comparison using software at Fasken. There were fully 918 differences between the two documents. Now, some of those are spacing. Some of those are formatting and punctuation, but as anyone who's ever dealt with lawyers well knows, you start moving even commas around, you get a different meaning. But these changes went far beyond commas. And I'm just going to highlight one of them to you. You can see it on screen. This is clause 3.3 of the CSRD version of the agreement. This deals with the renewal of a license to access docks, which will occur at the sole and absolute discretion of the owner, which is CSRD, Nord, and Splatson, based on, and this is a new sentence added to the agreement by CSRD that was not present under CP, any other factors deemed relevant by the owner, with no limitation. What we call that in law is an invitation for arbitrariness. It's an invitation for the person who has the benefit of this clause to say, I can do whatever I want. When it comes time for renewal, I can decide based on any factor that I deem relevant that I'm not going to renew your dock license. It could be something as simple as someone's eye color, where they're from, or the fact that you may not like them. And it's become quite clear, and I'll substantiate this in a moment as we look at some freedom of information responses. CSRD does not like the dock owners. It's become personal, and that is inappropriate for any public body in its dealing with a resident to whom that public body owes a duty of care, a fiduciary duty, and a duty to deal fairly. The second thing I'd like to point out to you is this headline. Columbia Shuswap Regional District dismisses claim it plans to bring rails back to the rail trail. The dock owners had issued a release in the fall that talked about language that was found in the draft crossing agreement that actually talked about light rail being brought to the rail trail. So it wouldn't just be a walking trail, it would be a trail on which light rail, a commuter rail line would travel. This was dismissed as fake news. It was really vigorously put down by CSRD. Talisha, can you just flip for a moment to the plans for that light rail system and bring it up on screen?
Yeah.
You can see as you look at this that down to the half meter, there is a detailed design plan for not only a walking trail, but a light railway to go alongside of it, even a platform at which commuters can step from the trail onto the railway. This is the level of misleading statement that's been employed by CSRD to try to manage this issue. There is a duty that CSRD is under to deal fairly, to deal honestly with residents, and that just hasn't happened here. And these two factors, the unfairness of the agreement that's being put forward and the misleading statements around key documents and plans, has really poisoned the debate around the rail trail. We're not having an honest conversation in the public sphere about what's being demanded. Talisha, we'll go to the next slide if you don't mind. I mentioned that this had become personal. This is a quote from an email that we obtained under Freedom of Information laws. This comes from an individual named Sharon Berger, who is known to some of you. This is a quote about Jeremy Fair, you've just heard from. What a great deal of time and money Mr. Fair has caused us. It would serve him right if we decided not to renew the agreement in 5 years. Again, in law, this is an inappropriate basis upon which to make a decision about a resident in seeking a benefit from a public body. You literally can't do this. You can make decisions based on objective criteria. If someone didn't pay their license fee or was otherwise out of compliance with some objective criteria, that's fair game. The idea that a resident of the community has put forward a concern about the treatment he's received, the devaluation of his property in a real estate sense, and has asked sensible questions, in no way permits a municipal body, a regional government body, from considering that we should do something punitive to him. We don't like him, and therefore he ought to be punished in some way. It would serve him right. This is really problematic language that we've been able to find in emails from CSRD. These were internal emails, and this is what the dock owners are up against. Again, I'm illustrating all of this so that you are aware as a council and as a community what's happening at the level of regional government vis-a-vis residents of Sycamore. If we can go to the next slide. And this is where it gets terribly serious. I'm just going to read an excerpt. This is from a letter written to us by Carmen Gysi and Marlene Lundrigan back in February, where they describe a conversation between a potential buyer for their property. Let me just read this to you. We were told by our buyer that he had a meeting with Charles Hamilton. In short, one of the things that came out of that meeting was Charles asked our buyer what he offered for our house. Without our buyer revealing the price, Charles indicated it was 50% too much because he owned the property between our property and the lake. Because of that comment, our buyer not only walked away from the deal, but ran. This is incredibly serious. We were not present in this conversation. Carmen is relaying something from a buyer. You will have to choose what weight you place on this. I found it incredibly serious that this kind of discussion would occur, that these kinds of claims would be made. But at bottom, if this is true, if this dispute is devaluing properties up to 45%, that is real material harm being done to residents of the community. And it is not, in my view, something that we should take lightly or stand by and do nothing about. Sadly, it gets worse. If we go to the next slide, you'll see a very recent letter. This comes from a law firm. I take no issue with the lawyers involved. Like all lawyers, they take instructions from their clients. The client is CSRD, and CSRD is asked and instructed that these letters be sent. What the letter does, and you'll see in the bolded text as follows: if the regional districts do not receive satisfactory responses to this letter by March 15th, which is very soon, the districts will be consulting with us further with respect to legal remedies to address the trespass and unauthorized use of their lands. And here's the kicker: if you wish to avoid such proceedings, we urge you to respond. A separate license agreement will be required. What this is a sign or else letter. Sign the crossing agreement that contains the highly arbitrary renewal clause, or you will see your dock pulled from the water. This is the exact opposite of what we heard in the press back in in the fall, many of you would have seen the Global TV item wherein the chair of CSRD actually said, we have no plans to pull docks from the water. We're not doing that. This letter says, we will sue you in trespass if you don't sign our agreement. This is very heavy language. It's a pressure tactic towards citizens by a government towards individuals that in my view just isn't appropriate. It's not a proper way for a regional level government to interact with its citizens. If we can go to the next slide, I'd like to make good on the promise I made at the start of the presentation, and we will move quickly towards the end to provide a solution for the problem that I've illustrated. There are many ways of approaching this. This is only one, but I think it's a viable one. In the context of the rail trail, CSRD is a simple landowner within your jurisdiction. They have incredible powers as a regional government, but what they have chosen to do here, fascinatingly, is as follows. And this is, I'll ask you to track with me on this. A public body holding land privately, namely the rail trail, for an ostensible public purpose, using the threat of private legal proceedings like trespass to force private citizens to sign deals with that public body. This is quite a scheme. It is a bit breathtaking in its scope. There is one problem for CSRD. They are a landowner under your jurisdiction. They have chosen to hold land privately along with others, and that is the rail trail. That gives this council a variety of options. What we're proposing is a DOS bylaw, which is permissive, protective, and meaningful. And I'll illustrate what that bylaw could look like. The values in play are quite simple as well. They are to protect residents, including seasonal residents. They are chiefly to assert the rightful jurisdiction of DOS. And finally, they're to send a message to regional government. I'm aware of the scope and number of troubles you have had with CSRD, not just on docks, but across so many files. There is, in my view, an overbearing, overreaching tendency within CSRD insofar as Sycamore is concerned. And my view is that it simply isn't going to get better. Now is a moment, especially in an election year when residents are interested in government and are looking to you for leadership, to send a very strong message to CSRD that it simply won't be tolerated. Let's move to the text of a proposed bylaw. This is simply an excerpt. What this would do would be to prohibit anyone from constructing, building, maintaining, or possessing a semi-waterfront dock, which would be a defined term in the bylaw, without the written approval of the District of Sycamore. It means that you would decide who gets a dock because it's your territory, it's your community, and you have this authority under the community charter, the authority to regulate structures. A dock is a structure. So the first thing that would have to happen is someone would have to make an application to DOS for the ability to construct, build, maintain a dock if it's currently existing. And that would entail a process at DOS, not at CSRD. Subclause B, no person or body shall obstruct or otherwise interfere with the quiet enjoyment of a semi-waterfront dock for which written approval has been granted by the district. And then sub C, and this is critical, unreasonably withhold consent as an upland owner or interfere with a semi-waterfront owner's application for specific permission for private moorage of dock license from the province of British Columbia. We should acknowledge that the province has jurisdiction over the riparian rights associated with a dock. The province has a policy, not a law, a policy, which is designed to say that if you're going to have a dock, you must not, there must not be a protest from the waterfront owner, the upland owner. If that person protests, the province indicates that its policy, again, not a law, would be to see that dock removed. What this bylaw would do would be a statement by Sycamore, a positive statement that you may have a dock. No one, once we have granted that permission, can obstruct or otherwise interfere with the quiet enjoyment of that dock. And no one can unreasonably withhold consent as an upland owner. I've used the word unreasonably here because we can envision a situation But there might be a scenario where, as part of the rail trail, perhaps there could be a public dock built, not several, one dock. I can see that being reasonable. There might be a reasonable argument that a riparian right had been interfered with. But all other arguments would be unreasonable. Again, you go back to that image of the trail and the docks. Those docks are not impeding that trail. That trail does not touch those docks. There's no reason they can't peacefully coexist as they did for half a century when CP had that railway. This is a manufactured conflict. I'm sorry that you have to keep hearing about it. I think you will keep hearing about it unless something is done. Finally, I'd like to close by saying, in a positive sense, what BC dock owners are seeking. We've said a lot about problems with CSRD and how they've treated dock owners and really how they view Sycamore. I want to talk to you very briefly about what dock owners want. One, formal permission from the rail trail ownership group to allow docks and dock access. If they won't give that, I think the DOS should. CSRD has been quite adamant that they are, by their conduct, not going to grant that permission, not going to deal through a fair crossing agreement with the waterfront owners, the semi-waterfront owners. Two, a fair and achievable and objective criteria for approval and renewal. Again, just not something CSRD has put forward, and they have had plenty of time to do that through a draft agreement. Three, the ability to transfer dock access and usage to subsequent semi-waterfront purchasers. That goes to the value of land, your ability to value it and transfer it. Four, a meaningful dispute resolution mechanism. Five, and this is critical, successful completion of the rail trail to the benefit of the entire community. And six, and this is so simple, but it has never happened, a positive response to repeated invitations to meet with CSRD. One would think it would be the most simple thing in the world for reasonable people to sit around a table and talk to each other the way that we are talking tonight. We have asked repeatedly, and it has simply been ignored. Not even the dignity of a response. It's so easy to write a letter, and it's never been done. Finally, I want to make this absolutely clear, because this is an allegation that's been repeated by CSRD over and over again. It is patently false. BC dock owners are not seeking ownership or control of any portion of the rail trail. It's a nonsensical allegation. It wouldn't make sense. The trail is for the public good and for the public use. Just as people at some point will be able to walk along the trail, dock owners simply want to be able to walk across the trail. It couldn't be more simple, and we would ask for your support in seeing that happen. And at this point, I'm happy to take any questions, and I thank you for your indulgence on the time, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Andrew. Okay, Jeremy, comments and then questions from council.
Well, I think we laid out a reasonable plan here this evening to accomplish a means to not only dock owners having legitimate opportunity to have a dock, but something that is fair for the community, and I think sends a solid message to the CSRD on many other issues that are coming down on this town. I stand before you, someone who came here with the utmost respect and belief that this community would be the place where I retire, where I would spend the remainder of my days, where my family would have retreats, where we would bring friends and family, where I would have brought business associates. And I think that can still happen. I think there's such a warm and caring community. One of the things that this community has to face, though, is that they're trying to do two things that just are opposed. Since I got here, many young families have come to me and said, hey, you're a successful business person. Would you help create jobs in this community? We need that here. We need our young people to stay here. We need them to earn enough money to afford a home, to afford to have children, to afford to pay the taxes so that this community can grow and get more infrastructure, get a pool, get more schooling, get more programs. These are things that this community clearly needs to grow, to maintain its youth, to maintain and create jobs that will be meaningful, that are not just seasonal, and have businesses that stay open through the full year. This is something that's been asked for me time and time again. just as an individual walking around this community and meeting all these great young families and people that have been here for a very long time. But on the other hand, I also hear, you know, you're bringing your money from Alberta, although I am a BC boy, and you want to have a dock, and why should you have a dock? And that's something that was said to me by the CSRD CAO. You know, why do you deserve a dock? So on one hand, there is a need, there is a desire for this community to grow, to create jobs, to create meaningful jobs. And I'm a technology guy, and those are extremely high paying, low impact jobs. And you know, one will start many more. But on the other hand, there's still this imbalance where many believe that things should stay the same. So you can't have both. And if we're going to attract people that can come in and have the impact that this town needs, we're going to have to have a place for them to stay. You know, after 20, 30, 40 years of hard work and the ability to purchase a home that has a dock, that's something that people like myself would like. And we would like to give back to the community. I went to 4-H as a child. You know, head, hands, heart, health. Give back to your community. And that's something that I've wanted to do and hopefully will be able to do in this community and do that for it. So I think we put together a legitimate opportunity, and I hope all of you will take it into consideration. I think it's a wonderful community that has tremendous potential, but there is a barrier, and I believe fully that that barrier to having that success resides with an overbearing regional government next door to you. And I think if we together can accomplish and challenge that resistance that they bring to this community, I think we'll see great things happen here.
Thanks, Jeremy. Questions from council?
Gord.
Gord, go ahead.
Thank you, Terry. Yes, just wanted to thank Andrew and Talish and Jeremy and Natalie. This is something that really has struck home for me. I think we've been mistreated on this whole rail trail thing from the beginning, and I think we should support a dock bylaw for sure. And I just want to thank them for bringing it to the table.
Thanks, Gord. Any other comments? Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, through the chair. No, Jeremy, it's frustrating. I'm on the rail trail committee, and we don't get listened to. We offered mediation. We talked about the district of Sycamore was having control of the rail trail, not ownership. We talked about ownership. We mentioned twice mediation. And it's just falls on deaf ears. It gets more airtime on beating us up on why we shouldn't have it than it would take to resolve the issues. And that's unfortunate because it's put a strain on the district of Sycamore and the CSRD that's led to some inconveniences for both sides. And I was really quite surprised because, you know, not being a politician, which most people will attest to, I'm not a politician. After 8 years, I'm still not a politician. I refuse to be a politician. There is a difference between right and wrong. And I honestly thought when I got elected that, you know, you work within your community and your neighbor communities and the CSRD work to get things done together, and then that work to things that might happen through the province. That's why we have SILGA. That's why we have UBCM. But this is disheartening as far as a relationship for the benefit of the people of the community, because this community pays, how much do we pay a year to CSRD, Kelly?
About 600,000.
We gift $600,000 a year to the CSRD for services that they provide us. And I'm remiss to find out exactly what benefit we've got for those services. And that is your money. It's my money. And we deserve better. And so hopefully we're gonna move some things forward here. I'm not at liberty to say what might or might not happen, but this has reached a breaking point. And we really could use some big community support. So if you went out and talked to your neighbors and friends and wrote a letter to the CSRD and basically said, you know, we're tired of this shit, we're not gonna take it anymore, they might get the message. If they got 1,500 letters like that, we might actually see some resolve. But I doubt it. I think they're a little bit too thick for that. So, thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. Natalie, did you want to comment?
I did. I was thinking this afternoon back to when I first met some of you, actually. And Stuart and I had the pleasure of meeting a couple of you before you were elected, days before, actually. And meeting you on that day solidified our desire to invest in the community. Our perception of a forward-minded council dedicated to economic growth was what culminated in our transition to Sycamore, identifying investment opportunities and pursuing a life here for our small kids. A critical piece of that decision was the excitement and energy actually around the rail trail development. We had many conversations, and the connectivity to the far shore and downtown Sycamore was crucial right at Bruin Crossing. There was a vision, and there was a plan, and there was a goal. And there was considerable economic growth expected out of that initiative, which we recognized. However, all of that energy has been sucked out of this community's involvement in the rail trail project. I can see it in all of your faces, really, you know, and all of us sitting here, you know, listening to what Andrew had to say. And instead of optimism for current and future businesses here in Sycamore, I feel an undeniable reservation stifling our initial hopes for our relocation. I personally sat and discussed fundraising opportunities for the rail trail project at some points. You know, we talked about alternatives to bridges such as tunnels when that was a hurdle, or even self-propelled ferry crossings for pedestrians or cyclists. You know, however positive those and creative those conversations were, they've been shoved to the side as the rail trail project within the district of Sycamore has so shifted that I'm now standing here with these gentlemen behind me, and on behalf of the other private landowners, concerned residents, and business owners who believe that this project will have the ill effect of undermining investment of any kind in our community, because the CSRD has become so fixated on driving this contentious issue into the ground that instead of simply sitting down at the table with us to discuss the crux of the matter and the solutions we feel everybody would find palatable. The question now, of course, is whether the District of Sycamore can resolve this matter before the harm to our community culminates in economic losses for its residents, businesses, and reputation. I have heard the CSRD state many times that it is protecting the interests of the public. However, it seems to me that they are incapable of responding to the taxpayers here who have approached them as very interested members of this public on the rail trail project. Perhaps they have another group of taxpayers who have been asking them for over 5 months to pursue this attack on our friends, neighbors, and livelihoods. However, I have not yet met someone in that group, and I am doubtful that any of you have either. So I'll just wrap up now by reiterating that I am deeply concerned that the direction of the rail trail, or that the direction the rail trail is taking this community in, is starkly contrary to the one which we all expected. So thank you very much to all of you, for all of you still sitting here at this late hour, for taking the time to listen and giving us this voice tonight. We really, really appreciate it.
Thanks, Natalie. All right.
I'd like to make a comment if I could, just real brief. Is that possible?
Go ahead, Randy.
Thank you again, everybody, for taking the time on the rail trail issue. I know it's been a long, hard trail for us to go down here. I've made a significant investment, as everyone knows. I'm the last guy to build on the rail trail, multi-million-dollar property. I came here to retire, and we've spent 2 years with the CSRD, myself and Jeremy. Our coalition has spent $400,000 to date with no results. And I'm here to tell you that we have extreme intel. We have proof on paper that their goal is to remove the docks all the way to Hyde Mountain. That's a fact. And if anybody wants to see that evidence, I'll provide it for you.
So I'm here to tell you, if you're prepared to watch all of the docks on the west side of this lake disappear, do nothing. But I'm here to tell you that I asked very clearly that a bylaw be put in place to help 23 landowners and the inclusive of the landowners potentially down to the Hyde Market not lose their docks. I think it would be a disaster publicly. I think it would be disastrous financially. We've estimated that the property losses just in the district of Sycamore could be in the neighborhood of $25 million. And I will tell you, those people will want that at least reimbursed. Because if a government that is outside of our jurisdiction is going to come in and arbitrarily, just on a whim, as Andrew had said, decide that just docks just generally aren't good, you can't do that to citizens. But I'm here to tell you that $400,000 could have went to the building of the trail. And Jeff was incredible bringing it to the Rail Trail Governance Committee that we would have built the trail. We would have funded our people, but it was just flatly denied. But I have evidence, and it's on paper, that their ultimate goal is to remove those docks. And I think that the crossing agreement that they put in front of us clearly shows that evidence that they want that power to be able to arbitrarily, in a short period of time, remove docks. We're a dock-friendly community. People come here to all over this country to enjoy this water here. And I can't imagine all these docks being removed. And I'll just say one more thing. If we do not do anything by June of this year, all of those existing CP rail agreements that have got extended by the CSRD graciously for 1 year are expiring. So by June of this year, you're going to have 23 owners that are going to have trespasses on their signs on their docks. We will not be able to access those docks. What is those properties worth? For what reason? And I think that the bylaw, we have studied this significantly, spent months on this. The bylaw is a huge deterrent for the CSRD to cause problems. And I will say one other final thing. The province is watching this very closely, and we've been in touch with them. And I think that they would be very supportive to see that the local jurisdiction has provided support for the dock owners. I'll just leave it at that. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks to all three of you. And any other comments from Donna?
Yeah, I just want to say, you guys know that we are in your team and support you, and have for a while now, and have gotten our noses hit with a rolled up newspaper several times. I do support the bylaw as well. So
Thank you very much. Thank you.
you're welcome.
Gord, did you want one more comment?
Yeah, no, thanks for that, Natalie, sorry. I just caution everybody that the whole plan is passive recreation, and passive recreation is non-motorized, and non-motorized is not good for Sycamores. We've survived on houseboating and boating in this community since I started coming here back in the 70s. And I just caution that, the whole thing about turning it into a park or a waterfront park, and everything in the zoning bylaw, the CSRD zoning bylaws, is passive recreation. And passive recreation is no motorized. So be cautious about it, and let's support our residents, and support the people all the way to Hyde Mountain, and let's get this moving for them. Thank you.
All right, yeah, so my take, so this has been challenging, and we have tried to find a solution now for, I don't know how many years, we've been going 2 years, so it's been just absolutely, it's nuts. And I agree with Colleen and Jeff and, and all our counselors. We've been trying to figure this out, and we haven't been getting any support. Yeah, I'm in favor of trying to exercise the bylaw as well. And if it rectifies the problem, then we've accomplished our goal. I think what's happened here in the democratic process is broken down just by what Andrew had to say. And when I took myself off the Rail Governance Committee and put Jeff on it, I thought maybe we would get some resolution to this based on the fact that he's so knowledgeable on the waterfront, right? But I just seem to run into roadblocks, and it's this not the rail trail when it comes to the CSRD. I mean, the issue with the rec center right now is going to cost us, the decision that board made is going to cost this community about $200,000, maybe 3 to 4% increase in taxation on a decision that we didn't make. So it's a combination of different things. But we got to find a resolution in which we're starting to work together and collaborate. And that's not been the case, but maybe this will be the catalyst that'll maybe solve that. We have had conversation in regards to the bylaw and whether it has any merit or not, but now that we've listened to Andrew, we'll see where this goes. So anyway, we want to thank you guys for your input tonight and coming here and trying to help us figure this out, because we got to get a solution to this. It's just too important to this community right now, and it's not just about the rail trail. Anyway, thanks.
Mr. Chair, would it be acceptable for me to make one final comment? And I'll wait for your approval on that. I realize I'm out of sequence.
Go ahead.
I just want to indicate that we are available to help in any way we can. I can't be your lawyer, but I am so pleased to speak with anyone who might be advising you on this. What you will hear in the days to come, I am almost certain, is that this is problematic. There are technical issues. And what I'd like to say to you is that there will inevitably be 100 reasons why you shouldn't do this, but one overarching reason why you should, and in my view, you must, respectfully, which is to establish and reestablish your jurisdiction over what is your territory. I learned the hard way in Ottawa that when you instruct officials and lawyers, you don't ask them if you can do something. You decide what you're going to do, and then you tell them, this is the way we are going. Write this up in a way that gets me there in the most safe and efficient way possible. And most staff, most lawyers are delighted to do that. But my earnest advice to you is to learn that lesson that I had to learn the hard way in dealing with the Federal Justice Department. You have to tell the lawyers what you've decided to do, the outcome you want, and then they advise you how to affect that. You will hear that this will invite some form of interjurisdictional chaos. You should welcome that chaos. You need to fight fire with fire, in my respectful submission. You've been mistreated, ignored, taken for granted, and it is now time to use your authority over this territory to assert yourselves fully. And that's what this bylaw is designed to do. There are other formulations. We should be open-minded and very brave about this. And you have our full commitment to lend whatever help that we can. And thank you again for your indulgence tonight.
Thanks, Andrew.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Thank you.
Thanks, Randy. Thanks, Natalie.
Thank you.
We'll move on. We'll see where this goes. All right. Now, next.
Don't forget to write the CSRD.
Agreement services with the Sycamore and District Chamber of Commerce. Recommendation that council authorize the mayor and the corporate officer to execute the agreement for services between the District of Sycamore and the Sycamore and District Chamber of Commerce as presented this 9th day of March 2022. Sheila, is she here somewhere? She was.
I think she's on Zoom.
She's on them.
She's here. She's got a present.
Yes, I'll just see around the corner.
Yeah,
Move.
I see her coming.
Oh, here she comes.
Presentation to do, and then.
I'm sorry.
All right. I read the recommendation. We don't have a mover and a seconder yet, but I'm gonna let you speak on it before that happens, and so you knock your socks off.
I'm just here tonight to give a report, actually, because we haven't actually seen each other, other on a daily basis, but we haven't had a report or seen from the chamber or the visitor center in over a year. So I thought I would come in and tell you what we have been doing and what we're planning on doing. And then you can make your decision about your resolution, but I'm not here to influence you in any way whatsoever. So would you like me to begin? that what you're saying? Is this,
No, because it's not PowerPoint,
okay,
so I have to do it.
okay, well, go ahead.
I'll figure it out.
Go ahead. There you go. So talking about the past, talking about the future. There are 32 slides here, just so you know. But
Yay.
You put it on
you
autoplay.
know what? Last year gave us a lot of time to do a lot of work. So we did do a website refresh, and thanks to Community Future, Shoe Swap, and Saskia, we were able to do that. We got and we have new colors, and we have a feature, and now can run some banner ads as well. We have all our social media platforms updated. There are 2 of them, one for the visitor center and the chamber. We have a new pop-up. It has 125 members on it from last year. And that's right outside my office if you'd like to have a look at it. We managed to actually have a forum in amongst all of that by doing it on a virtual level. Worked out not too bad. We interviewed each one of those candidates. We taped it. And everybody got an opportunity to see what they had to say. We were able to give them questions as well. So it went as good as it could for the towns. We had a shop local campaign last year that we are continuing to push, and had stickers that we took and we put in everybody's window. They're kind of eye-catching. It makes more sense to have that than I'm a chamber member, so it works for us. And then we did a few little impromptu videos with our members. Some of them like that, some of them didn't. We did videos, we didn't tell them we were gonna do them. We just stopped in and had a conversation. It was very organic. It was fun in the end, and we were able to put a lot of them out at Christmas time, so that helped with our shop local campaign. One of the new things that we did was podcasting. That was a lot of fun too. And again, it's not something I tell anybody we're gonna do, except 5 minutes before we have a conversation, because then you get that really genuine conversation. It's very organic, as I said. The one I had one of the most fun with was Carly, because she was all excited about doing it, but had no idea it was like that day, 5 minutes after I told her about it. So if you go onto our website, you can hear that. We are doing a lot of work together, her and I, and this was one of our first projects, was the brand new map, which I'm sure you saw last year. We have quite a large supply of them, so we will not be reprinting this year, but we'll update in the following year. We are still members of the BC Chamber, and I'm a member of the BC Chamber Executives, so that allows us to have a lot of clout in many circumstances. As you both or you all know, we have worked quite a lot with the Caribou, and now we're actually working on the gas tax. So just like Alberta announced, I was on a network call yesterday, so the BC Chamber is making this part of policy. So we're working on that, and I'll be at that conference for those policy discussions in June, which will be in Prince George this year. Last year, we were also able to really form a good partnership between us and the museum. We actually have a memorandum of understanding now, so the day-to-day operations we seem to be able to manage quite well. And we've got some really good partnership and some forward-thinking people. They've got new people on their board, and they're anxious to get started on making that museum really come to life. Obviously, last year we were hoping for a much better outcome, but maybe, just wait for locusts to show up. We pretty much had everything else. It's pretty sad, but we did manage to have some. So let me tell you about that one visitor center did. So you can see what the annual totals were in 2019, and you can see they were substantially different in the following 2 years. We did have a little bit of a pickup though in last year, and I think that was just because people did need to get out. These were the young people that I had working for me last summer. Some of them may come back. They were the ones taking the summer stats. That was really interesting because that's that 3-month period of time, and that's what those numbers look like for us. They were in our office, they were at Fruit World, and they were down at the beach as well. Other things they did, they rented bikes from Leanne, and we had them tour all over town on the bikes and stop in at all of our businesses and chat and drop off things. They had to be creative and helpful in the community, just keep them busy and not breathing in smoke all day. They went to the kids club and helped them with the signs, and they actually put them up down the highway for Jamie when they were all completed. They did work on 2 projects. One was to actually bring people inside because people needed things to do last year. So they created a little mystery tour and offered prizes for people who could come in and solve the mystery as to who stole an artifact in the museum. So it was kind of fun. They also painted rocks and hid them throughout town. They gave everybody clues as to where the first one was, and then you had to turn the rock over and find a clue for the next one. Unfortunately, we didn't sell the rocks, so we did a lot of rock replacements. Yeah. We could sell the rocks, I think, so we'll need to talk about that this year. We were really fortunate last year to make a connection with Spot Scene, and we had Trina Antone stop it. And through a discussion, she offered to come and be in the visitor center 2 days a week and just talk to people and tell stories of Spot Scene. We are really ramping up that relationship and talking about a new partnership and a project that actually is involving reconciliation. So when I can talk about it a bit more, I'll be glad to come back and share that one with you. There is also a podcast with her that's extremely interesting because she is very much about the healing process and very easy to talk to. We even asked her if she would work with us because, as you know, when we are all with First Nations, sometimes we have difficulty with the proper ways to address people. So she is going to make sure that we all work with that. So now we look forward to the new year. So our staff, you've met them possibly, Danny and Hannah have been with us for over a year now. They work Monday to Friday, 8:30 to 4:30. And the reason we changed the hours is because your staff had to keep answering questions at the front, and that wasn't fair. So we're keeping them fairly steady with that. Our summer students will be here the last week of June, and then they will start the first week of July. The plan is to have them down at the beach park and throughout town, just like we did last year. They will be in the concession. I know everybody says it's a concession, but it has a sink. It doesn't really have much else except storage. So anything that goes out of there would be a prepackaged product. The goal here is to work with local businesses. So somebody like Brian, it'd be nice to have fruit down there so that kids get fruit during the day. And talk to Mel about maybe some muffins. So it's not about just chips and pop. So we'd like to have a water dispenser down there. We've got water bottles we can sell. So we don't have all that refuge down there either. Until we find out what the connectivity is like, then we will be able to determine if we can make a cashless option, because that's nice if you're at the beach. Not everybody's carrying money these days. And certainly it's not easy to do when you're at the beach park. One of the other things that we're looking at doing and putting on in May, and this is another joint venture with Carly, we'll be offering free ambassador training for all of the employers in town that they're bringing on staff. So it's about customer service, it's about knowing about the town. We'll be holding 2 half-day sessions so that it doesn't deplete anybody's staffing, and it will be free and they will get a certificate at the end. Additionally, Jamie has offered to have registration done through the system, so that makes it a lot easier for us. We have business walks scheduled for the first week in May as well, Carly and I. She went out last year and tried this. We were not very receptive at that time because they weren't really thinking about the future. They were just trying to make it through the day. So we're hoping by going out this time, we'll see some more to be moving a bit more forward and getting engaged in some of the programs that are coming up. Another thing that's new that we're working on is we have a brand new guide coming out. It's going to be 60 pages. It's pretty exciting. It's going to be an Explore Sycamore guide. So it's currently actually underway and should be out by the long weekend in May. There will be advertising opportunities, so we'll let everybody know. So this is the best part. Now we're actually going to open the doors and finally do something, and So get your calendar out because I got a whole list of stuff for you to do. So first of all, the mayor's breakfast, and that's on the 29th of March. We're going to be down at Bruce Mulligan's. I saw Jared today. That's all set to go. I've got a couple of biz after biz organized. Probably going to have 2 more. And it would appear that we're going to be doing music in the park after all. So let's see how that goes. So the tickets for the mayor's breakfast are $20 and you can buy them in the visitor center. The biz after biz. So in keeping with, we weren't sure what was going to happen. We've decided that we want to do a biz after biz on Main Street and a biz after biz over at Parkland Mall. Both of those places are happening places and people are ready to get outside and mingle. So we've got a couple of ideas and plans in the works. Once we are done these 2, we are going to be looking at doing down Finlayson and then another one down Riverside. So stay tuned. We're hoping that they're going to be well attended and a lot of fun this year. Music in the park. We're going to have 8 weeks of music starting on the 4th of July. We are working with Morgan Touton, who's got a music school here in town, and a fellow out of Revelstoke who actually did provide sound for us a long time ago. And they're pulling together the artists and we'll be providing all the sound equipment, etc., so that the evenings are done professionally. And I think that's it. It's close to 32 slides. And I believe that I have given Kelly, just so there's an update, I have given Kelly our financial summary for the final year. I believe she approved all of that. She is our auditor to do that. The chamber did actually participate in the getting of the money from the government, which we will be paid back. So we've got $20,000 to $10,000 increments that made it possible for us to keep the doors open, and we have 40 that will be going back to the government. And that,
all right.
We're still working on what's new with this shoe. It'll come out quarterly, and that's about it.
All right, any comments or questions for Sheila? I guess we're getting late in the. You got lots going on. Thanks, Sheila. And Jason, your comments at all?
Just briefly, exactly that. Basically, what we're asking you to do is to approve the changes to the agreement, which will effectively take in those 2 considerations. One is for the chamber to operate the concession at the beach park, and concession in quotes as to what it is there. And then secondly is for the chamber to operate the music in the park. That does come a budget for $10,000 plus GST, which basically is an absence of, we provided a special event coordinator for the last couple of years. And since that position is no longer there and no longer assists, this money basically is allowing her to go and bring that professional help in that she'd already mentioned in her presentation. So.
Okay, good. All right, so I read the resolution. Any other comments? Read the resolution. I'll read it again. That council authorized the mayor and corporate officer to execute the agreement for services between the district of Sycamore and the Sycamore and District Chamber of Commerce as presented this 9th day of March 2022. I need a mover. Councillor Evans, seconded by Councillor Anderson. Any other comments or questions? All in favor? Where's Gord? Is he still on?
Oh, I think.
Somewhere.
Where'd he go? Sorry.
In favor, Gord? All right.
Have a minimize.
Good to go, thanks.
Good job, Sheila.
Okay, development variance permit 2223 DVP 1125 Willow Road. Recommendation that the district of Sycamore authorize and issue the development variance permit number 2223 DVP for strata lot 13, district lot 497, Kamloops Division Yale District Strata Plan EP S 822, together with the interest in the common property and the proportion of the unit entitlement of the strata lot as shown in Form V to vary the district's Sycamore zoning bylaw 1993, section 604 C2 rear setbacks for single family dwelling. I need a mover. Councillor Malmus, seconded by Councillor Aries. Councillor Malmus, do you want to comment? It was happened at the committee of, or the planning committee today, and you guys verified it.
Yeah, through the chair. So this is one of the lots in Parksview. And at the last planning committees go, we basically blanketed the entire all our lots there from a 6 meter back to a 5 meter setback. And so I'm not sure if it's approved yet. I don't think it is. So that's why we're doing an individual one. So they're already started construction. So the planning development committee recommended that we move this forward.
All right, any other comments or questions? Going to call a question, all in favor? Carried. Gord, are you on there? Carried.
I'm on there, yep.
Okay, good, thank you. All
I'm
right.
not sure why I'm not on there.
All right, for information, staff report regarding the financial report on the 21 financial statements. Kelly, you want to give us a short report on this?
I will. Sure. Yes, I would recognizing the time that we are at, and I've got lots of numbers here. So the year has wrapped up. The 2021 year is over, and this is just a report summarizing where we at compared to budget prior year. I'll just highlight a few things of keynote. Sale of services went up quite a bit, went from 400 to 1.1 million. In there, we had almost $400,000 of health center revenue, which we had originally budgeted for about 175. So that was a large increase. In addition, we received about $320,000 from the province for our work. So that was in there. So that was up. Also, licenses and permits is up from last year and up from budget. Development services increased from development costs from 10,000 to a whopping 20. And building permits went up from 120,000 to 143. And our bylaw officer has been busy writing tickets. Last year, we had about $200 in fines, and this year we had almost 15,000 in penalties.
Those bad people out there.
So he's helping pay for his wage. He's not here right now, but so at the end of the day, our revenue is in line with budget, so that's good and up from last year. And our expenses are also in line with budget, a little up, mainly due to protective services, which is here, 845,000, and that's due to the additional costs we incurred because of the 2 Mile fire and the structure protection that we actually don't get reimbursed for there, but we did get additional funds for some other firework. And public health and welfare, this here also a lot higher. We had more revenue from the medical center, but we also had more costs, and clearly we didn't have the health center last year. So previously it was just the cemetery in there. So at the end of the day, we have a small surplus in the general fund and everything is looking good. Now we'll hop over to the water fund. So here at the end of the day, there was more consumption this year in addition to some slightly increased consumption rates over last year. So we generated 70,000 more in revenue than budgeted for. And that additional 70 went really into reserve. So then we were able to put more into reserves than originally anticipated, which really helps with our future capital infrastructure. To note, in the maintenance of 700,000, just over here, in 2020, the cost to operate our water treatment plant was 275,000, and in 2021, it decreased to 245,000. So just compared to the water treatment plant. And at the end of the year, we have a small surplus in the water fund, and everything is looking where it should for that fund. In addition, the sewer fund also, because of increased consumption, was up just because consumption is only is much less for sewer. It was up 40,000, and then that additional 40 or just over went into reserves. Something to note is that this debt repayment here decreased during the year. So after 10 years, our MFA loan for sewer, which was $3 million originally, got refinanced. The interest rate went from 4.2% to 1.47%. So we're paying down that principal a lot faster now. And so that will be a reduction moving forward. Today, we also have a small surplus in our sewer fund. So for general water and sewer operationally, everything is looking good. Then I'm not going to go over any of the capital in detail other than just to say We've spent 5.5 million, which is about 51% of our total capital budget project, capital project budget of 10.9 million. And then I've got some more details here in terms of the bridge and what we have spent to date. There's still 872,000 at the end of the year left to spend. We have hold back some other amounts, liquidated damages that we're withheld, and we're revising the 2022 budget to be about 5.9 million. And then I just have a summary of some new projects that we have taken on in 2021, which is the hockey academy, the daycare building, and the community health center. And these particular projects are all funded from offset by grant funds. So I'll just go to the net. So this is the hockey academy. So we originally budgeted for a deficit of 75. We're actually just under here. So that's funded from the COVID money and not taxpayers at this point. The daycare building budgeted for a $17,000 deficit. It was actually 13,000. And then the community health center budgeted for 141,000, and we're at 116. So everything was actually better than originally budgeted, which is always good. And in April, at some point, the audited financial statements will be coming to council. The auditors are coming next week, which we're delighted about. And there will be a presentation of the audited financial statements as well. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Question, go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, one.
Through the chair. So good job, Kelly. But I continuously get asked over and over again about when we're doing wastewater, waterworks. They're going like, this is going to affect our taxes. And I try to explain to them that basically the water fund, the sewer fund is a not-for-profit that self-sustaining with its own revenue. And so is there some way when we send out the water bill that we can actually articulate that to the people of the District of Sycamore so that they realize that these are two utilities? It's like paying your hydro bill. Only thing is this is a true not-for-profit. This is makes the money. So when you put time in it, there's some money paid to your wages. When Daryl puts time in it, there's money paid to his wages. Will Phillips is full-time on it and a few others, but then some of the other staff. And they go, oh, well, we didn't know that. So somehow or another, it'd be great if we could just inform the public that utilities are a self-sustained, not-for-profit, net zero.
Do that on the website.
Reserves for capital expenditures that doesn't affect your tax base, or it's not supposed to affect your tax base.
I hear you loud and clear, and we definitely can add some communication A to the utility bills and B on our website. We can do up a little bit because you're right, they're completely separate, accounted for completely separate, and the taxes don't even come over this way. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You know, I have to agree with Jeff on that, with some of the questions I get, but I just checked with Jen here and she says it's on our website and we're trying to communicate the best we can, I'm guessing, obviously.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know how else we can do it, right? But okay, so there was a resolution on this.
No, for information.
No, just for.
The resolution on that?
No, just for information, I present that.
No resolution.
Does council receive the report for information purposes? I need a mover. Don't need it?
We don't need it.
All right. All right, then we will move on to the next thing. Regular April 27, 2022, regular meeting cancellation. Recommendation that the April 27, 2022 regular meeting of council be canceled. Jen, can you give us a reason why you want to do this?
Certainly. 86% of council will be at Silga and 14% of council will be out of town. So nobody will be here.
That's a good. I need a mover. Counselor Momas, Counselor Hurry.
can we get the next 3 council meetings after?
Go ahead, Chloe.
So are we rescheduling or just canceling?
I think at this point, reschedule or just canceling, we can always call a special meeting if something comes up of urgent nature.
Well, we need a break.
From you.
Well, let's see where the chips lie.
I do want to update council that one of the resolutions regarding the Highway 97 was not accepted by SILGA though. They said it was too regional, it was too specific, and they want matters that are more provincial in nature. So they did not accept that resolution. They did accept the paid protester resolution.
Which one?
The paid protesters was accepted.
All right, regarding the recommendation, any other comments? Call a question, all in favor? Gordo, okay, you're up there. Yeah, carried unanimously. Thanks, John. All right, fees and charges amending bylaw number 1016-2022. First, second, and third reading, recommendation of fees and charges amending bylaw number 1016-2022 be read a first, second, and third time ended this 9th day of March 2022. I need a mover on that. Counselor Evans, Counselor Malmus, Jason.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, through the chair. This is basically to address a couple of changes that we're making in our rates for our large amenities that we have, specifically the stage. What happened basically is we rent the stage out to other communities, and the cost to do that has skyrocketed. So effectively, we were making nothing on a rental by the time that we paid transportation costs, setup costs and whatnot of moving it to another district, another area, which was within 90 kilometers. But instead, what we've done now is we send this out to another community, but then not only do they pay the rental fee, they'll be responsible for paying the transportation and setup fees that go with it. That's done one of 2 ways, either by Daryl's crew, if it's local and his crew has time to do it, or we have an agreement with SW out of Kelowna to also do that and set up our stage for us. The reason why we only have those 2 groups is you actually have to hold a certain certification to set up our stage. Not anybody can do it. It's a training course that you have to have an actual certification. So our staff and SW has it. If some other group out there has it and can prove it to us, they would be able to do it as well. But that's for us to be able to basically recapture to get a rental cost and then add that on top of it. The wash car, we've also changed so that it can only be rented within the district of Sycamore's boundaries. We've just found that every time we send it out, it's damaged and it costs us more in repairs than we get in rentals. So keeping it within our boundaries is just responsibility. And the third change there is we did move the town manager may waive rental fees out of just the Eagle's Nest, and that applies to any of the special event fees that the town manager can waive fees at their behest.
Okay, right, question for Jason. Go ahead, Jeff.
I'm assuming that people that are renting the wash car and the stage are communities mostly.
For the most part, they have been, yes. Festivals and fairs, the music festivals, those are the ones that are basically using our equipment, yeah.
So through the chair, can't you make it that the contract has a clause in it that they have to pay for the repair? Period, not us.
We through the chair, we could, but the problem has been that we also have to train them on how to take care of it as well. So sending our staff there, it's not just a matter of the repairs after the fact. We have to send someone there to train them how to do it, have to set up the schedule. And there's a lot of things that have to be done during the actual rental to take care of it, or it will break. Is effectively is what I'm being. I haven't been here when it's been rented out, so I have to be honest. So I'm getting advice from Daryl and his crew and whatever else as far as that goes. But effectively, the time and effort to send it out there, to send our staff, the training that goes into it, everything else just isn't worth the amount that we would have to charge to get the return back.
So through the chair, then what's the point of renting it?
Exactly.
Hey?
Exactly. And that's what we're saying. So.
You asking Jeff?
Let Evan explain it.
Well,
he got the question, I think.
Yeah. Geez, I think I'm the only one who understands you. Only one saying.
Because of the bond we've established over the last 6 years.
The reality through the chair is that most requests for our wash car are either pro bono a non-for-profit group who's looking for some support from the district. And there's just huge risk and liability that go with, transporting this, setting it up. I remember Joe showing me at one event after the event, just the work involved. And if we were getting requests for people who are saying, here's $10,000, here's a damage deposit of $5,000, we would be actively looking at more rentals. But the rentals are basically, can we have it for free or can we have it for $500? And these are non-for-profits. They're, whether it's the Armstrong Fair or some other benevolent fund or group, yet we are assuming all the risk. And so really, I think what Jason's saying is, why do we rent it if we're not going to get the full costs absorbed and more importantly, protect the asset? I think it was $125,000, if I recall, to purchase this brand new. It's an amazing facility when you think of the options out there, but it's a ton of work. It comes with shower facilities. And so I think what staff are saying is, unless we're going to get the full cost covered and the liability covered and the insurance on behalf of the rentor, what is the point of renting it? Correct?
Correct. And that cost would be substantial.
Yeah, if we really wanted to recover our true costs. We were hoping for more commercial bookings. They didn't really come. It was more non-for-profits.
I like the resolution as it sits. I think we had to tighten up on this and I think it was costing us, but at the same time, if a change to the dynamics or whatever, we can always bring it back to council for consideration. That's what I say, if we want to maybe lease or lend it out at no cost or whatever. Councillor Mamas, go ahead.
Yeah, I just, like I said, when we made this, it was supposedly an investment that was gonna have a revenue stream.
Yeah.
And if we made an investment that is a cost stream, it was the wrong investment. So yes, we use it for our own events. Because of COVID, we haven't had a lot, but I honestly believe that, the taxpayers of Sycamore spent close to $250,000 on those two pieces, the stage and the wash car. And it was supposed to have some revenue attached to it, and it was supposed to assist us in our events, which it does. But I think that the not-for-profits and the other ones, like it's a $500,000 deal. Come on, we're not going to give it to you for free. Just phone the stage guys in Kelowna. They give it up for free. So what? Stop it.
We did some bargaining with it though. We exchanged it for a larger stage at one stage and there was some consideration of that. I mean, and maybe that might happen again in the future. Evan, you wanted to comment?
No, exactly. I think the answer, if you're going to get your full investment over time back in terms of renting it out, it's through a commercial operator, like the stage, I forget their name, Kelowna. SW, thank you. If they were to come forward with, they've got the proper insurance and they've got the capital and capacity, and they're a big operator saying, we'd love your stage and we'd love your wash car for a 3-day event. Okay, here's the total cost. But it's tough when you get in the non-for-profits. So ideally, I think our potential target area would be a commercial operator or a company that's in the event business, because that wash car combined with the stage is a great asset and it's mobile, placed anywhere if they pay for the transportation within the Okanagan, Thompson, Shuswap region.
Right, go ahead, Daryl.
Yeah, through the chair, just to weigh in on the wash car a little bit. We do have plans to use it locally and it will get some use here. We've been bit, and I think it's primarily from the fee structure that we've got set up in place right now. I think that wash car commands about $1,000 a day, and they did $7,000 damage over a weekend. So if we could put that more in line with what we need to recoup, or we get some kind of a security. We had a really bad experience with the Armstrong affair, and it was to the point where You know, we had to give them back part of their security. It was getting ugly. They were calling on the weekend and saying this thing's not working. Well, they weren't maintaining it properly and it blew up. So if we could maybe look at those numbers, I'd be open to that. I don't have a problem seeing that thing go, and then we clean it up when it gets back. But I think at $1,000 a day, that wash car, we're asking for trouble. It's just, it gets a lot of use.
Right, go ahead, Colleen.
So what if you bumped up that damage deposit to $5,000? And you took the wash car to $2,000? You're only going to get the folks that want to use it, and we don't lend it out to not-for-profit anymore.
Yeah, through the chair, I'd feel better about that. If we had even a minimum of a weekend, you know, at 2,000 a day.
Yeah.
Minimum 2 days or something like that, because we've got to send people down there to show them how to do it all. And what it's going to take, and that's taken a couple of people.
Go ahead.
Could we stipulate that they come here for training? Instead of you taking it there, they come here, they get trained here. So you're not sending your guys out of town?
Yeah, that's not a bad idea, but once you're putting that thing into use, you want it in place. And then you're gonna go through the trouble of setting it all up, and then you'd show them how to do it. Otherwise, we'd be having to kind of stage it all and bring them in for a training session.
Oh, you have to stage it.
Yeah,
Okay.
ramps to put in, there's all kinds of stuff that goes with that. So we'd do that on site, and that's fine if we're protected with a little bit of money.
Daryl, go ahead, Jay.
Through the chair, we could do something similar to that I'm proposing with the stage too, is set a minimum price that's considerably higher than what it is. And then quote out what it's going to cost us from there. If we have to send a crew out, we can calculate those costs ahead of time and quote back. So it's not something that we have to have an exact number in here. It's like, here's the base fee, like Daryl said, maybe $2,000 a day. It has to rent out for 2 days minimum. And then after that, we quote the real fees of sending a crew out, what's going to cost, and give them that quote afterwards. That's something we could do as well.
All right, okay.
Yeah, perhaps, yeah, just, yeah. Bump up the damage deposit and go installation extra, or charge by the hour. And then charge $2,000 for the day.
Put on a cleaning fee.
And yeah, well, you know what? I mean, you're only, the people that can afford it will use it, and they'll take care of it because it's got some money attached to it.
Yeah.
And if you're gonna get into a fight, we should never get into a fight about a damage deposit. We get the damage deposit. Sorry for your luck if you wrecked it.
All right, any other comments on all the
I'm
questions?
tired.
And cranky.
I call a question, all those in favor? Carried unanimously. Gord? All right.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that, yeah, I would raise the damage deposit a lot higher than that. I would put it up to 5,000. I mean, it's like a houseboat, you know, and if they don't bring it back fairly clean, the cleaning fee comes out of the damage deposit.
All right, it was carried. All right, correspondence. Anybody want to talk on any of these correspondence?
I do.
Go ahead, Jeff.
I'd like to talk about leaving. I'd like to talk about
Adjournment.
adjournment.
That's up to the gallery.
It's not on the correspondence list, it's underneath of it, sorry.
Comment on two things here, and that is,
Comment on something.
I thank you for the light up and with Seniors Center. Thank you for the donation. It was the money that we sent them for the Christmas dinner. Anyway, it's nice to see everybody that we've helped out give a response. Bob, you're up.
Answer my question, sir.
Okay, go ahead.
It's not on the correspondence. I just wondered if Evan made any inroads to the conversation we were having about having another building as a emergency building.
Staff are looking into it. Yeah. What Councillor Malmus is talking about is that I met with representatives of the Legion. And right now, through our Shuswap emergency program, the functional playbook, if you will, at the reception area and the meeting places, the seniors drop-in center. It is the hope long-term that we will have municipal hall on a generator, which we do. We'll have the Shuswap Healing Center on a generator in the community space, and we would also have the Legion. And that would just be a long-term approach. So we're looking at different grants to provide the Legion with a generator. They have a full kitchen, and that would complement the seniors drop-in center, who also has a kitchen in the event of a disaster, where we can host people, house people, and feed people. So we're looking at that at the staff level.
Any other comments on correspondence? Gord, you okay? Okay, thank you. All right. Boy, this has been a marathon today, if nothing else. But anyway, recommendation that the regular council meeting from March 9th, 2022 be adjourned at 8:30. Counselor Evans, Counselor Malmus, all in favor. We're out of here. Thanks to everybody online. Thanks for you in the gallery. And thanks to staff and hanging in here.